welcome to the June 18th, 2018 meeting of the North Brookfield School Committee. This meeting is being recorded by North Brookfield LPAC. If there's anyone present who is also recording this meeting, please raise your hand so others are aware. All right. So we want to do approval of the minutes and then do those.
Motion to approve the minutes from the May School Committee meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So we have a number of people we invited here to be recognized for their wonderful work at the school. So we're actually going to move that up to the next thing we're going to do, so you guys don't have to sit here and listen for 2 hours. So.
Unless you really want.
You're always welcome to stay, of course. So having been a person who was on the PTO board, I understand how much work people put into the parent groups, the PTO, the SPED PAC, and also the sports boosters. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of dedication, and all of you do amazing things for the students here. And also we had a couple of volunteers as well that we wanted to recognize, as well as the drama club volunteers and the robotics club volunteers. So we'll start. I think you guys are with the sports booster club, right? Mm-hmm.
So there are 4 folks. I know there's a lot more than that than we could recognize, but it's their executive board. So it's Brenda LeCare, Allison Bulger, Ann Farley, and Mary Jane Carroll. And Allison couldn't be here tonight, so. Hey, thank you for all the work you've done. Got a little everything. All right.
Yes,
Congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
And stick around, we'll do like one big picture at the end.
Oh, yeah.
The PTO next.
So the PTO, I see the president and treasurer are here, or just past president and treasurer are here. So Nicole Rogers and Jessica, tell me how to pronounce. Thank you. You guys have done tremendous things too for the kids and for the schools. So it's a lot of work. Thank you so much.
And Mrs. Owen and Mrs. LaBelle are the vice president and the secretary, and they couldn't be here, so I wanted to say thank you to you guys. 'Cause, again, all the hard work that you've done for Mr. Evans taught me this. Pass it without paying. It's a graduation thing, right?
And moving on to the last parent group, the Special Education Parent Advisory Committee, who also do tremendous work to help support the special education, in particular the Special Olympics and the spaghetti dinner. And I know that in all the many things that they have purchased to help the special ed program here at the school.
And I did combine it with Team SPED PAC.
Yeah, and then also which I believe the fundraising arm is Team SPED PAC. So Ann Adams is not here, I don't think. Ruth Hontham, our very own Ruth on the school committee here, and Katie Griffin
For Team SPED PAC.
for Team SPED PAC, and then Michelle Thayer actually as well. She's president of Teams of SPED PAC, I guess, but she's not here.
And then Ruth is the vice president and Katie's the secretary treasurer, I think.
Yes.
If I didn't get that right, I reversed it. That's my fault, sorry.
Your certificate, Ruth.
You gotta get your certificate. Pass with the left, shake with the right. Thank you so much.
So this year, very cool, a robotics club was started at the high school, middle school and high school. So we have 4 people that we wanted to recognize for putting in the effort and making that opportunity for the kids. Mr. Evans, George Nolet, who was in here. He seems to
just
have...
ran out on a fire call.
Oh, okay. So Mr. Nolet's also a firefighter, so thank you for that as well. And Scott Norrie. And also Jerry Armstrong, aka Gramps.
Yep.
Nice.
All right. right? See that? I got it down. Nora, thanks so much. Thank you for the participation with the robotics. Awesome. That's awesome.
And then, very happy to recognize the Drum Club. And personally, as someone who loves theater and musical theater, really excited to see the kids having the opportunity to do that. So, Dakota Hiner, right? Hiner, no. Ann Adams as well for this. Carrie McCarthy, who is the music director. Dakota was the director. Ann Adams was the stage manager, I think, right? Carrie McCarthy was the music director, as well as Anthony. Okay, and also the choreographer was Jackie McGurgle. So the music directors and the choreographer do volunteer entirely. Dakota and Ann get a stipend, but they do it for the love of it. They're not doing it for
Certainly
money.
don't make a lot.
Right.
We wish it could be more.
Right. But you guys did a tremendous job this year with the play. It was so fun. The kids were so good, and so much. Thank you so much for doing all that.
You are Carrie.
Lori.
Yeah.
So, two other people that we have that volunteer weekly or more than weekly in the elementary school. So there's a woman named Paula Slade who couldn't be here tonight, and she has been volunteering for 4 years. She comes weekly to the second grade, and she has carefully selected books to read to each of the classrooms, second grade classrooms. She actually is a professional voiceover actress, and I know both my kids have experienced her reading, and they love it. And she also has volunteered to read during various events like Can't Read a Lot and Earth Day. And then also her company, Artistic Media Associates, has sponsored the second grade field trip this year and last year to the Dr. Seuss Museum. So thank her very much for everything she does. And also Lori Davis, who is a former teacher at North Brookfield Elementary. She retired. She was a teacher for 34 years. She retired 3 years ago. And she's a regular volunteer on the Title I team. So she comes in and works with Miss Simpson and Mrs. Pratt. She comes in 2 to 3 days a week and helps with assessments and works with small groups. And she also does a weekly math enrichment in grade 4. So both of those women do so much work for us and do it for the love.
Yeah. Wonderful. So thank you all. It's much appreciated. So you want to do a picture?
Just one more person. So I thanked her this afternoon when we had our box tops celebration.
Sorry,
But Jennifer Morse took over the box tops coordination this year. And she did a really awesome job. And she has 4 kids, and she and her husband own their own business. So the fact that she counted and clipped over 14,000 box tops is a great thing. And thank her very much for all that. So. Okay. So, I know adults love having their picture taken, so if you could all put it together.
Do I take it for you?
Ruth? You have to go up, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Listen to all you guys tall in the back, or just going for the back.
Yeah, but Brian, you want to kneel?
Yeah.
How about you guys just shift a little bit there?
You want to sit people in the front, or throw some chairs? Remember the, what was it, like 1912
All right.
class pictures?
Everybody smile.
Yes. Perfectly.
Thanks so much,
It's an
guys.
idiot.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Really much appreciated. Yes?
I just want to thank you to shout out to Mr. Norrie for he leaves.
Sure.
Oh, yeah. Oh.
Mr. Norrie, do you have a second? Of course. I wanted to say thank you. I don't have a certificate for you, but Mr. Nori has coordinated our field day for the past several years, 3 years. And his youngest is graduating 6th grade this year, so he informed me the other day he'll no longer be coordinating, and we're gonna have to find a replacement.
Oh, there's no replacement for Steve.
Thank you very much for all your time.
Oh, Bridget's gonna do
So we
it?
have field day at the
Well, yeah.
Oh, okay, awesome.
All right, I'm in.
That's awesome.
Bridget is the replacement from next year, right? Bridget
She
Lavelle?
didn't commit 100%.
Okay.
We'll find
She
it, we'll
committed
find, yeah.
today.
Did she?
Yeah.
Keep me posted. Okay. We have somebody in mind, let me know.
We already kind of.
You got it, okay, good.
Yep.
All right.
Thanks, Scott.
Do you want to do Scott, or Alex, no, you want to do them later? Okay. We also, I'm sorry, I missed this, we also need to approve the minutes from the school committee budget workshop we did on June 15th.
Yep, motion to approve the minutes from the school committee budget workshop on June 5th, 2018.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So I don't think we have any correspondence?
Nope.
And we don't have any presentations? So Alex,
Okay.
you're up.
So this is, I gotta, so this is definitely gonna be my last.
I thought Christina was joining.
I thought she was coming
Yeah,
with you.
I was pretty sure that this was gonna get canceled, so I just texted her, you don't have to come, just because like, I was already here.
You made a
and
command decision?
We had like,
Good for you.
like tornado warning or whatever, so I was like, I don't really mind either. So stuff we've done, we're kind of wrapping up the year, so it is slowing down a little bit. Our biggest event was this last Tuesday. It was the junior conference for the 6th graders. They came over all day on Tuesday and learned about leadership through workshops we held. All the kids seemed to like it, and it's definitely an event we want to keep doing every year. I know I talked to Mr. Evans. You were obviously in the loop with this, and what do you think? Anything different on your end? Do you think should be changed, or?
Well, I haven't gone, all the feedback I got was very positive, from students, from teachers, and from everybody that was involved. I haven't received any feedback that would suggest any significant changes. I'm sure you guys saw some things that you would want to tweak here and there, but
Yep.
In general, I thought it was an extremely positive event and a great way for the 6th graders to get a sense of the high school, but also what student council is. It's a vital part of the school community, and I'm very appreciative for the work that they do, building school spirit and sponsoring so many different events. So the more kids that jump in on that, the better. It's good for the kids, it's good for the entire school. So I think it was a great job, and you really did a nice job coordinating.
Thank you.
What was the question that you got most often from the 6th graders?
Oh, I didn't actually. I didn't deal with the 6th graders directly. I was actually the one running it.
Okay.
So
He's
I-
upper management, upper level.
Lowest grade, pay grade, okay.
yeah, we had we had group leaders of, it was about one like they were usually in like an upperclassman or
Yeah.
in like 10th or 9th grade.
Yep.
And it was about one group leader usually to 5 kids, so it was a pretty good management
Yeah.
with the, so we didn't really have any issues with that. I'm trying to think of a question that I got asked.
What's for lunch,
Yeah,
Always.
so that's
Always a good
Yeah.
one.
and how do you open those lockers?
Yep. Always tops on the list. Lunch and lockers.
Yeah, in years past we were actually able to get free pizza, but this year we had the regional conference for student council, so we basically
You used it up there.
we didn't have like a ton of money left over to just go spending it all on that. So other stuff we've done, we had class selections. I don't remember the date for that. Was that last week, 2 weeks ago? About
2 weeks ago.
yeah, that went fine. And there's no really way that could go wrong. We had a cookout on class day, which was June 1st. That went good. The only thing that could have gone better was we had to leave a little bit earlier than we expected to start cooking. but overall, I think everybody liked it, and
Good.
I don't think we had any issues with approval, the lunch staff, or anything. I think that's all the main things we've done. Any questions? Any feedback for the student council? Anything?
No, I
Is this-
think, seems like you guys do a tremendous job. I mean, it's not a big school, but you provide a lot of events and do a lot for the school.
Okay, thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Christina will definitely be here next year.
So if she needs you, though, you'll be there to support her.
I just
Yeah.
want to let you know we will not be
Yeah.
surprised if you come back
Yeah,
again next
no,
year.
I'll be back here for some other thing.
Well, he
Okay.
might be behind a camera, and we'd have to
Yeah,
call him to help out.
Perfect.
definitely.
So before you go, we just, the school committee and myself just want to say thank you for coming to all the meetings and providing an update on what's happening. It's much appreciated. I know it's not easy with a busy schedule to find time to pop into our meetings and give us an update. So we wanted to give you a little something to
Oh,
say
thank you.
First, a certificate, because you can't go anywhere in the schools without a
Thank you.
certificate. Card.
Thank you.
That's the kind of thing I appreciate and I really.
That's not bad. I like the candy.
You want to break any of those open right now?
Thank you.
See you, Emily.
See you later.
Thank you.
Have a nice work. Thank you.
Excellent.
Next will be public participation, which we don't appear to have any.
None.
Somebody left.
And we have no school committee reports, so we're moving on to the fun stuff with the financial reports.
All right, so in your packet is the latest financials. Couple of notes in here. First, you're going to see some really huge numbers that have parentheses around them, which means they're in a deficit. But many of those are things that we're trying to get out in front of in terms of our budget. So when you see there's a line that says on the first page, District Tech Hardware, $61,991 with parentheses, that's in the red. But that was, we bought all the Chromebooks and the server that were in next year's budget. That was part of our first
Bless
wave
you.
of reductions. So what needs to happen, and Sheila's putting it all together for you to be signed, is she needs to transfer funds from one line to the hardware line because it didn't have enough in it to cover it. So she's going to do all that, and that's just a signature, two signatures from members. It doesn't need to be voted on. So there are quite a few like that because we've started to make those moves in terms of that. Some of the others are, the sublines, which continue to be extremely, out of whack in terms of the numbers. But don't forget that those also include anybody out on long-term. So we had 2 teachers recently go out on maternity leave. Their
Okay.
remaining salary is, on that. That was over the last couple of months. We have, it also includes paras and para coverage if we, have people out sick there too. So it's definitely overdrawn, but it's overdrawn for very specific reasons. Couple others to mention. Second page, media center director. He was hired at a rate higher than we originally budgeted for, so we need to adjust that. And that happened last summer. The rest are mostly in the area of transfers. Down at the bottom of page 2, you see in the notes column 2 AED references. We had to update our AEDs per Michael's law. Some of our AEDs were out of date.
Oh, wow.
They needed to be replaced. That was something we were going to have to do next year that we've been able to take care of now, so they were installed this morning.
Okay,
All brand new
good.
Excellent.
AEDs, and so
Good.
that's in great shape.
Yeah.
Page 3, you can see like halfway down fuel oil, 14,000. We topped off. So we had an oil delivery recently.
Okay.
Heaters haven't been on, to heat the building, but we figured let's top it off now because it doesn't go bad, and heating season will come in October, and we'll.
Before
so
we
it's,
know
again,
it.
a way to reduce
Yeah.
the budget a little bit. And then on the last page, buildings, high school, there's a $6,700. There's been some repairs that we've needed to make. The roof continues to be challenging. So that's kind of the big stuff. We're about 85% spent, which makes sense. There's a lot of money that's sort of encumbered but hasn't been sort of processed. All the summer payroll, which is whatever, 350,000. So we're more than 85% spent, but because it hasn't been processed, it can't be included. But again, we're still in the positive. We still have, we're on the black side, which is good. We're not in the red, and we're able to do some things in preparation for next year's budget. We're continuing on that path, as I've outlined in past meetings on the budget. What can we get ahead on?
Mhm.
We had a lot of general office stuff, postage, things like that we use all the time. We might be out of now, but instead of buying 3 stamps for the end of the year, you buy 300. They go through next year. So that kind of purchasing.
And 97, 92 at that bottom number, is that simply the difference, like, once it's all said and done and
That's
all funds are
that's the difference between when it says school, that's Sheila's number,
Okay,
and town is the town accountant's number. So
Okay.
they just haven't had a chance to get together and,
Okay.
and sort of figure out where they're off.
okay,
But it's 97
$97
bucks is nothing.
out of this big
I
of a
think the
budget.
town accountant said, I don't care about 97 bucks, and I think Sheila said, we need to get together, I need to find 97 bucks.
Yeah.
She gets
I would
frustrated when
imagine
it's not
Sheila did.
perfect, so.
Okay,
wanted to-
So yeah, that's
Okay.
essentially how that kind of plays
Excellent.
out.
okay,
The grant accounts, again, look pretty good, revolving grant accounts. Much of it you'll sort of recognize in the notes. The only one you won't is the minus 49,000, but that's the elementary school roof project. So as we get,
Mr. Armstrong.
what's that?
That's Mr. Armstrong.
Oh, Mr. Armstrong's here.
Mr. Armstrong.
Come on in.
It is.
yes,
it is.
you're in the right spot.
So, Mr. Armstrong, I hear your nickname is Gramps.
I'm sorry?
I heard your nickname is Gramps. Is that correct? No? Okay.
That's a new one.
That's a new one, all right. I don't know you well enough to call you by your nickname anyway, so.
So we wanted to recognize folks who helped out at some point during the year, who helped out with the robotics club
Yes,
this year.
correct, yes.
So we just wanted to invite you in to say thank you, because it was the first year that we did it, and it seemed to be a huge success, and it was a huge success because you and George and Scott and Mr. Evans and the kids came together. So we really appreciate the time that you came and gave, and wanted to say thank you, in a small kind of token of our appreciation.
Next year we bet, well, not the recognition, but the robot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Jerry.
So just to pick up where I was, $49,789 is for the elementary school roof. So what happens is we get billed, and then we have to submit the bills and everything to the MSBA, who reimburses us. So essentially, it's a minus $789 thing. The rest you'll see, we send out our regular, we receive our regular increments. So, when you see SPED 94-142 minus 445, we just got it. It just hasn't been put into the system yet. So it's been received, but this report was as of the 14th, and we just received it on the 13th. So
Okay.
it just hasn't been updated. So most of them have been received. There's a couple that are a little short. The off-duty detail is $235. That is for I'm not sure what, to be honest honest with you.
Okay.
Sheila told me, it's not jumping into my head. But everything else looks good. Some of our revolving accounts are in pretty good shape. You know, athletic user fee has, I know we've talked about this, has about $7,800 in it. Parking fees has about $4,100 in it. What was one of the other ones that we had talked about? And the preschool revolve has about $24,000 in it. So, you know, we draw off those, like the parking fee, I think is gonna be used to take care of the parking lot this year, put new
Yep.
lines, and
Yep.
stuff like that, so.
Is that monies that has to be spent at the end of the
Nope.
year because it's a revolving
They're
account we
revolving,
can
they
collect
can
and
last
once we
forever.
need to
Yeah.
use it? Okay,
Exactly.
excellent.
So, you know, we're in pretty good shape. The school gift account is in great shape. I mean, there's about $10,400 in it. You know, I don't know what that's been used for in the past, but it's kind of an open-ended thing. Just as an aside, I don't know if you recall in the annual town meeting, there was an article for the schools that didn't involve money. It was about the creation of an account, a revolving account, for a tuition-in student from another district.
Yep.
We received our first payment. So we got April 30th and all of May. So that district is on time with their payments per our billing, so that was really nice. And as I indicated in one of our budget meetings, we anticipate June being about another $4,000. So that'll bring it to about $8,000, $9,000 in that range, which we can use towards next year because it's already money received for the FY18 year. So that'll be good. It's a way to defray some of our costs with, you know, towards the budget next year. Questions about the financial report? Any questions that I can answer for you? Or get for you if I don't know the answer?
Athletic user fees, do those have to be specifically used for something in particular? Like the parking lot fee has to be, am I right by that? The parking fee has to be used to maintain the
So
parking area or
we try to
structures?
use it for things like that, like
Okay.
uniform replacements,
Yeah.
equipment replacements, things like that.
Yep.
I think the rules are that it needs to be associated with what you collected
What you
the fund
collected it for? Yeah, okay.
Doesn't have to be a perfect one-to-one, but like you can't go buy AP chemistry books with athletic user
Band
fees.
equipment
Yeah.
with, yeah, okay. Okay, thank
So-
you.
Any questions? No? Okay.
So moving on to your report.
Yep.
John.
So, just a few things to run by you. So, you'd, the last meeting, the school committee had asked us for an update on the bullying prevention and intervention action plan. So if you recall, last year, Dr. Tenza pulled a group together, redid the bullying prevention and intervention. One of my sort of, I guess, sticking points with planning is the lack of action planning that goes with it. You know, having a strategic plan, having an improvement plan without specific plans that sort of outline what you're gonna do and how you're gonna do it. You know, who's gonna be responsible and when is it gonna be done? Sort of frustrates me. A pet peeve, I guess. So we sat down and we kind of developed an action plan for the year and into next year for the bullying prevention and intervention plan. And we kind of broke it into a couple of different strategies. So the goal was to engage in a process to address social, emotional, and behavioral needs by developing stakeholder understanding of bullying and skills for prevention and intervention. And so we had a bunch of strategies that we put together, and then we created action steps for them. So from a district perspective, the first thing was to communicate the bullying prevention and intervention plan out to people. So our action steps included updating the website, sending out, weekly emails, and posting on social media and things like that. That we had the plan, so that people would know that we had it, how to access it, and those kinds of things. So you can kind of see how we set it up: strategy, action steps, evidence, who would be responsible, resources, timeline, and where we are in the process. We called it completed, but there are some things that'll never be done. It'll always be, you know, it's kind of an ongoing thing. If it's been addressed, I put a check mark. Doesn't mean we've done a lot with it. It might be that it's in process or at some point in process. So the staff has been provided PD, and again, it's not something that we'll do one time and forget. It'll be an ongoing thing over the course of years, where we always bring things back and have discussions. Mr. Rosenthal went to the MARC training, and the MARC is the Massachusetts Aggression Reduction Center at Bridgewater State College, where Elizabeth Englander was the director, or she still is, I think.
Sure.
But she's like nationally renowned for bullying prevention and intervention. She is like the person. So Greg went and he was trained as a trainer, which builds capacity, which is one of the things we've talked about. So he's been able to provide training to staff at both schools. You know, the idea is that we will keep bringing this back over and over again, work on different aspects rather than kind of a once a year, just do it and get it over with. Because when it becomes a checklist thing, people check out. Honestly, I mean, you know, teachers are no different than anyone else. When you just do it like as an annual sort of, we have to tell you there's no bullying. And they go, okay. And they don't really listen because it's the annual thing. So we really want to make it more interactive, address issues that might be happening in the school on an ongoing basis, or either school on an ongoing basis or district-wide. So we've done that. We've also provided with some opportunities for our kids to get age-appropriate learning opportunities. So at the elementary school, the way we've done that is we've integrated it into the school-wide celebrations on a monthly basis. Might be Mr. Rosenthal presenting some small aspect of what bullying is, how to prevent it, something really short, because again, if you have elementary kids sit for way too long, you're not going to hear it anymore. So, you know, something might, you know, what does a bystander look like? You hit it each time you do that, and you build over time. And if we keep doing that, then we'll make progress. Other examples, our 6th grade class did skits on, you know, what it might look like, a situation might look like, or a way to stop that, stop some behavior that's happening for their younger friends. So it was pretty cool way. At the high school, junior, senior high, we actually had a presentation, kind of Mr. Rosenthal presented to the kids. But we didn't stop there. We had the kids go back into their advisory groups for follow-up, and actually started to create videos. And then more recently, we had a follow-up to that, where they continued to work on their videos and other aspects of bullying, which was kind of cool. And we'll keep working on that, and hopefully be able to pull some of those and maybe put them on the website or things like that. I think those are really cool ways for kids to sort of make learning and learning about bullying, which, again, some kids go, yeah, of course, you shouldn't do it, but sometimes don't recognize when they participate in it, or ignore it, or witness it. So I think it's, you know, we're in the process there of doing kind of the same thing we do with the staff. Instead of sort of a one and done, it's sort of integrated over time. And we've talked about using at the junior, senior high some advisory time to continue that work. At the elementary school, they have an SEL time, social emotional learning time. And right now it's Mrs. Outhues who does the majority of the work, but the goal this summer is we have some funds put aside, which is also in here, to do some curriculum work, and how can, at the elementary school, make it more of a an everyday classroom teacher thing, not at the exclusion of Mrs. Outhues, but to make it more integrated into the classroom. And Mr. Glazier has bought some Second Steps kits and grade level stuff. I don't know where he is. They might have another couple of sets or one set to buy. I forget where you are.
We updated the 6th grade kit last year,
Yep.
which came with the anti-bullying component.
Sure.
We're actually going to be purchasing, we have a new social emotional screener that we're going to be using as well, which just came this week.
That's
Sorry.
district-wide.
District-wide.
What do you mean by screener? What does that mean?
It's something that the teachers are gonna do at the beginning of the school year, after they've gotten to know their kids for 6 or 7 weeks. And it's just going to highlight any social and emotional areas that we might wanna look at further, identify, just, you might be able to add more to that, Greg.
Yeah, so it's one of those intervention strategies. So we do benchmark testing for reading all the time. Well, that's great. This is sort of benchmark testing for social emotional learning. And, embedding some of that curriculum into the classroom and doing some, intervention when needed. So the screener kind of will ask the teacher, what they're seeing within the classroom for all their students. And then, when it comes back and they'll review the data, analyze it, and there might be, a student or two that might be at risk. I'm not saying it's happening, but might be at risk. We might do a little intervention piece, or might do a whole class lesson. And really, the social emotional learning screener that we bought actually has the curriculum in it. So as soon as those areas of concern come up, maybe it's interpersonal relationships, maybe it's, making friends or whatever it might be. Once that comes up, there's specific curriculum around how to do this. And then especially if we see a trend, or if we see a pattern, we can start building in even to younger grades.
And so that's kind of the programming, which is sort of the main focus. And then near the end of the plan that you have there, it's really thinking about next year and where we go from here. So, always having it on an agenda, and you can ask the admin team, every meeting or two, I will have bullying prevention and intervention plan. Where are we? What are the updates? What do we need to do? What are the next steps? We also want to look to hire a district coordinator as a stipend position for positive behavior and intervention and supports district-wide. Coordinate what's happening between this building and the high school and junior high. They may look different, but having coordination on things that we address is really important. And then this summer, as school gets out, when I do I don't know if it'll be a weekly update or a bi-monthly or some kind of update. I've been working on a survey on bullying prevention and intervention to send out to parents, and I'll send one out to teachers and get some feedback that way. We have a lot of student feedback already. The screener is one. We have things like the PNAS also address things like that.
What is that?
That's the survey that the high
Prevention needs
schools-
assessment.
Is that the one that the nurse came and presented to us earlier this year?
No, that was Esper.
Westburt.
No, that was
Oh.
PNA. Prevention needs assessment survey was done with 8th, 10th, and 12th graders last year. And that is risky behavior.
It's a regional survey of school districts of kids in those ages that they compile and send out to the area, the regions that participate, that give you a sense of not just your school, but the region, and give you a sense of things that kids may or may not be doing, risky types of behaviors. So, but that's kind of the update as to where we're at. I think we made some progress. We have a lot of work to do. It certainly needs to stay at our forefront, and we need to figure out a couple of things in here that we wanted to do, and I've had some conversations with some folks about it, and I have some thoughts on how to move forward with that. And that's-
Can I make a suggestion?
In particular, that's around, how do we pull parents and guardians in?
That's my suggestion, is that maybe summer is a good time to plan for
Yeah.
something
And that's what
next
we're
year.
doing. So I have some thoughts on that. I think, one of the challenges with this is if you invite parents into a bullying prevention and intervention presentation, my experience has been in much larger schools, you get 15 people or 10 people. And I don't think our intent was to try to get, 10 or 15 or 3. Our goal is to get a lot higher number. So I think the only way that happens, and I should have learned this after 20 years of doing this, but it's when kids participate, when their kids sing, when they do, they show up to concerts, they show up to sporting events, they show up to, and I get that, they're watching their kids. So one of the conversations I had with actually Jess Stanley over at the high school was, if we could combine sort of bullying prevention and intervention, presentation to parents with student presentations on bullying prevention and intervention. So I said, you know, the 6th graders did skits. The high schoolers were making videos. Like if those were presented publicly, and kids presented, like to bring a kid out who did a video and say, why'd you do this video? And they make a quick thing and then show the video. Their parents will come, right? Because their child is doing something and presenting in a public way, just like in a concert or a play.
Yep.
If the 6th graders are doing a skit, great. If the 3rd graders are singing a song, you know, that highlights bullying prevention or you know, things along that line, parents will come because it's a presentation that their kids are doing. And if we have conversation, narrative around that, why are the 3rd graders singing this song? Well, they did this. It's really important for you as parents to know that we're talking about bullying and here's how and why and, you know, fill in between rather than come on in and sit down for an hour and have us talk at you. Parents just won't do that. They don't have time. I mean, some will, but just not enough.
It's true.
So that was the conversation we had, was to try to create an event that had kids come in and perform in some way or present something that they're doing around all the curriculum that we're covering. Because I think we're doing a lot. It's just sometimes it's not called bullying prevention. You know, Second Steps has a huge aspect of bullying prevention. Advisory is all about relationships and preventing bullying and having those discussions about various topics, including bullying. So the thought was, and this was sort of an off-the-cuff conversation with Jess Stanley, who said, yeah, we're not going to get families unless their kids are performing. I was like, oh, performing. Like, you're doing all this stuff, you know, kids are singing or doing artwork or drama or dance or video or anything like that, and we present it, and they come in and the kid is presenting their work, whatever it is, their parents will come. And as long as we intermingle a message that we want to get out, then we can, I think, have a successful sort of parent training. Because the most important part is getting, you know, smaller bits of information to parents. They don't need, we don't need to read them the whole plan that's like 10 pages long.
Yeah.
We need to tell them, you know, here's the plan, here's where you find it, here's the definition, here's how you get help, you know, here are some resources, here's how you can help, those kinds of bits of information. So that's the plan, or the preliminary plan. And I've shared that with the admin team, sort of informally as well. And we're gonna sit down and try to figure out how does this work? You know, what are the logistics of it all? So that's where we stand.
Two things that seem like positives to me is that both at the elementary and high school level, there are going to be sort of a coordinator or stipend or a group of people. I'm not quite sure how it's going to be structured to actually sort of like be a driving force on establishing some of the lessons in the program rollout. I think this is easily sort of something that, you know, we all are responsible for in schools, but then sort of like, but then who's, you know, so I think it's just nice to have that person that can kind of coordinate and.
Right, so I actually had this in another district, a district PBIS coordinator, and part of their job is obviously around PBIS. PBIS is sort of a.
I'm sorry, can you just define PBIS?
So PBIS is positive behavior interventions and supports. I mean, it's to me, it's more of a philosophy than a program. It's all about how do we help kids and staff establish a culture and a climate that's conducive to the best learning possible. And so PBIS programs have been developed, research-based and very, very relevant and in all the sort of journals and other things. And if you go to other schools, very sort of publicly displayed to try to improve climate and culture. And bullying is part of that. And having a district person who's sort of responsible for connecting with other schools and school districts, going to potentially conferences. There's two huge conferences, one in Connecticut, one in Norwood, One's a Massachusetts, one's a New England-based one at UConn, on PBIS, and they're, nationally known speakers, and there's workshops where school districts can get together and share ideas about things that they're addressing. And certainly, as I've said a couple of times, bullying is part of that. So having a person who receives a small stipend, it's not huge, help coordinate what's going on here at the elementary school and what's going on at the high school, and making sure that we're sort of all pulling on the same side of the rope, and help administratively, because when it's the principal who's coordinating and sort of running it, it becomes we're telling you what to do.
A directive.
A directive as opposed to something. And when you have a teacher serve in a stipend role who's helping to coordinate, they're not a supervisor saying you have to, but they're supporting the work by supporting people in various roles to be able to implement whatever we might be doing. So that's the idea behind the stipend, and create leadership within the staff, so it's not an administratively driven sort of initiative, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Our school has a PBIS team, so there's at least one, I think,
Right.
member from each grade level, the BCBA,
Yeah,
school
we've done that as
psychologists
well.
and stuff, so I don't know if that.
Some school districts do pay a stipend for that. Some it's just volunteer. In my last school district, we paid the coordinator and then offered PDPs to staff that participated, because they'd be working on all sorts of things that relate to recertification kinds of things. So, and we got volunteers to do that. So it just depends. But I think that would be the idea of the coordinator, is to sort of pull a team together in each school that helps sort of coordinate where we're going. Mr. Evans already has like an advisory group that talks, so this person could be liaison with them about what's going on. And Mr. Glazier has a group of dedicated teachers who have helped them out with PBIS and some of the things that they're working on this year. And again, that person can take over some of the things that the administrator had done and have it be more of a PLC, sort of a collegial work group that Mr. Glazier supports, but that person more facilitates the role. But you're right, a lot of schools do PBIS teams, and that would be my hope. Other questions?
No, thank you.
Okay. So the next piece was food services. So, as you know, we ended our relationship with Quabog at the end of February, and decided to go on our own. And to try to get through the end of the year, I approached our two cafeteria managers, Diana Ryan and Donna Holmes, who agreed to take on the duties of the food service director with extra hours. They did it for their hourly wage. So they worked a couple extra hours a day. I think it was an hour and a half extra each a day, and fulfilled all of the duties of the food services director. They did an outstanding job, as I shared with you. They really did. They stepped up and they were fantastic. However, in meeting with them, the role includes responsibilities that are beyond beyond their hourly wage. And the union, frankly, has some issues with us putting those duties on them, because they are members of that union, but now they're serving in an administrative role for their union wages. So it does sort of lead us to what's next. And we had talked about that back in February, March, when we made this switch. We're gonna have to finish out the school year and decide how we want to move forward. So one of the things that I've talked to Diana and Donna about was the idea of a stipend. So, how teachers serve in stipend roles, whether it's curriculum leaders or mentors or coaches or club advisors create 2 stipends, one for a lead food services director position and one for an assistant food services director. I just called it a stipend A and B because I didn't really have official names yet. But, and what we did was we came up with a yearly rate, as you can see on this form, for each position, based on the number of hours that they would need to work to complete the role of food services director and assistant food services director. This is really based on our experience to date. And the hourly rate for the lead food services director position was actually the hourly rate that our former food services director got. So when you divided out her salary in hours, she received $27 an hour. So
And
to
that was
do-
the person
Yep,
that we had the
that-
contract with?
Yep.
Okay.
That has left.
Yep.
So using that times the 441 hours, and you can see how I came up with the 441 hours, summer hours of about 60 hours, when school's in session, 366 hours, and to close out the school year, 15 hours. So add those up, you get 441 hours times $27 an hour gives you $11,907. For the assistant food services director position, we went to the assistant that worked with our former food services director in Quabog, that we paid a portion of their salary. And we came up with 223 hours, and we used $22 an hour, which is what that person received, and came up with $4,576. Now, the way we broke that out is listed: 20 hours in the summer, 183 hours during the school year, and 5 hours to help close out, giving you the 223 hours. So this is a yearly stipend. So they're not necessarily tied to the hours, we estimate the hours. So it's a salaried position, just like a coach or a club advisor. They're not, we don't, coaches don't give you a timesheet and say, I worked, we practiced from 6 to 8 tonight, or they don't get paid more if they practice 6 to 9 tonight. They get paid a stipend to do the job of coaching. And that's what these are. So they're not going to be tied to any hours. They're getting paid to complete the job. They know that. So, there's a couple of things here. One is, and that's why I put the bullet in that says days and hours to be determined. So we estimated for the food services director 60 hours during the summer. Well, if she can complete it in 50, great. But she's not getting any more or less money. If it takes her 70, she doesn't get more money. And we estimated 2 hours a day, and we estimated 5 days during the closeout. But more or less, it doesn't matter. They're going to get paid that stipend. And the same for the assistant food services director. And that's why I said it's paid in a yearly stipend. The total for the 2 stipends would be $16,483. Just so you know, our payment to Quabog for the for next school year would have been $40,000. So it's a less expensive option, and it compensates the people who would do those roles more appropriately. I think this is a good direction to go, given the people we have in the position right now. It would be a yearly stipend, so every year they would have to reapply, because all of our stipends are. It does have to be negotiated, so I can't just, you can't just say, let's do it. You have to sit down with the union, which I am actually doing tomorrow to go over this with them.
Do you want us to vote on this now, though?
No.
Just as, okay.
No, I want feedback. If you think this is
Okay.
a bad direction, say, Rich, talk to the union tomorrow and go and find a different approach. If you think this is the right approach, then I'll continue on this path and see what the union believes is fair and appropriate. I think what we did was very fair. I did this with Diana Ryan
Yep.
and Donna Holmes.
So they kind of have an idea of
Oh,
this?
they know this.
Okay, and they feel this is,
We went through,
okay.
I went through the hours with
Good.
them.
Awesome.
So.
Yep.
I went through the hourly rate with them.
Yep.
And how I determined it. And they're very comfortable, but they're not the union.
Right.
The head of the union.
Right.
So there may be things they didn't think of, or even I didn't think of, that the union would want to bring up. They're certainly going to bring up the idea of supervision. You know, union members technically cannot supervise and or discipline more appropriately other union members. They are cafeteria managers. They have a supervisory role. They can give tasks. You know, you need to go do that. I need you to work the register. I need you to prep this. And if someone says, no, I'm not doing that, they can't send them home. They can't, you know, put them on leave. They can't do any of that. They don't have the authority. So, you know, what we talked about was that they would, that the food service director stipend would work through me.
Mm-hmm.
They have an issue with
Yep.
an employee, because we talked about going through the principals, but they were both concerned about how busy the principals are, and they hate bothering them.
God bless them.
I know. I knew you guys would like that. And I said, well, for clarity and, you know, if they come to me and say, so-and-so has come in late, I've asked her not to be late, she's come late again, I'll address it through the, you know, the process, the discipline process that exists. So that would definitely be a question, and that's the answer. We're
Okay.
gonna have to write a very, you know, I don't wanna say lengthy, but a meaty
Clear.
job description that describes what they should and shouldn't be doing to complete the task. They both would, you know, they'd like the stipend in their yearly check, in their weekly check.
Mm-hmm.
Most stipends we give out there's 2 payments a year.
Yep.
You get one in December and one in June. They both didn't want to wait
Mm-hmm.
because they have, you know, they have bills, they have lives. So one of the things I definitely agreed to was that they would break it out into their check. I think they both get 26 pay periods, so their stipend would be divided by 26, and that would be included.
So essentially, you'll work on an MOU with the union if this moves forward?
Yeah.
Okay, and so my only thought on this is that the cafeteria managers are part of the union, the food service director is not, is that
Right.
correct? So I would just wanna make sure it's clear that, say we decided that this isn't gonna work and we do need to go back to a food service
We
director,
don't
that
fill the role.
position is not in the union, this does, by
Right.
establishing
Just
this
a
MOU,
stipend.
it does not mean that that
Right.
food service component ends up, you know what I'm saying? So if we need to go back to the other sort
Yep.
of functionality, we can.
Absolutely, it's just a stipend.
Yep.
I would
Yep.
talk to them and just say, we're not gonna fill it this year, it hasn't worked.
Yep,
We're going
Going
back
in a
to
different
the
direction.
administrative, you know, role of food services director.
I'm really happy that it's worked out and that they're willing to do it, I think that's great. I
They
think
both
it's
did a
really nice.
fantastic job, they'd like
Yeah.
to do it, but,
That's great.
you know, they were very funny in the meeting where they, you know, like, they felt guilty about saying the work we're doing, we're not
It's a
really
lot.
being compensated
Yeah.
appropriately for. They felt a little guilty about that, and they said, no, you
That's-
need to be honest with me,
yeah.
that's what I wanna know, like,
Yep.
you know, if you're happy and everything seems to work out, then we can continue this, but
Yep.
if you're not gonna continue it because of X, Y, or Z, and X might be the
Yep.
compensation, or Y could be some other problem, but I need to know so we can address it. And
Yep.
Like I said, they just felt like the compensation was a little low for the work they were being asked to do.
Yep.
Well, I think it's positive that the two of them look at this as workable. That we
Mhm.
don't- They're the ones that would know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, and
Good.
they're the ones who designed it in terms of, you know, my questions were,
Good.
how long is this gonna take you? And, you know,
Yeah.
Diana would be like, I have no idea. Well, give me an estimate.
Yep.
How long do you think it would take you? And it, you know, it's walking them through that process because some of it they haven't done before. So they estimated too. But I think it's fair. It's certainly, for lack of a better word, a savings in comparison
Mhm.
to our shared job. But I think it's great for them, and I think it's great for us. I think, you know, I think both principals have shared with me that they work well with their cafeteria staffs, and Diana and Donna are head those. So, and they've done a great job since March when they took over. So.
You both support this?
Absolutely, it's
Yeah.
particularly helpful to have people in the role actually in the
Yes,
cafeterias.
in the building,
They know what
Yep.
actually happens and
Yep.
what's happening with the kids and what they eat and what they don't eat. I mean,
you're planning something and need to talk to them, they're right there, it's,
yeah,
yeah.
it helps a lot.
Having the
Okay.
part-time person was difficult because decisions couldn't be made quickly.
Yep.
Everything had to be run through a person that was
Yep.
hard to reach, and
Yep.
I know that I can walk down 100 yards to the
Yep.
kitchen and talk to Diane and have it done the same day.
Yep.
Um, and like I said, she's been phenomenal. She's quick.
Good.
She does everything she's asked. That's great.
Good,
Yep.
very good,
Definitely support it.
excellent.
I just want to say something that's kind of off topic, but it relates to the food director in the cafeteria. The teachers in the elementary school, I had talked to one of them about, whether or not they could have food in the classrooms, which, along with the wellness policy, and they were under the impression that they still had to purchase through the cafeteria, which my understanding is that's no longer the case. Because it was the former food director who wanted that, so that doesn't seem to be clear to the staff. So if that's
That's also part of the wellness policy, though, is that
It
they
is?
have to,
Yeah, I
they
thought
have
it
to,
was part of the wellness
they have to know what's
policy.
in it, because if you have a student in your classroom with allergies,
Sure, but I
you
thought
have to
what-
run it, like, you have to know the ingredients of what's
Right.
in something.
So,
you
but
have
it
to-
doesn't have to be purchased through the
No.
cafeteria.
No.
That is, not that they're not gonna buy off the list, which is what
Yeah,
they
yeah,
did,
yeah.
but that
Yeah.
it doesn't have to be purchased through the cafeteria.
No, not at all.
Yeah, the guidance this year was really just the emphasis on the healthier snacks.
Yep.
Avoiding the sugary cupcakes and cookies,
Yep.
but like the second grade kindergarten and second grade are both having end of the year celebrations, and I looked at the list with them, cheese and crackers, fruit, water bottles. There were healthier options that
Yeah.
we put out to the parents, and we said these are the choices that we would like you guys to bring in.
Awesome.
And I've heard so far that parents have respected that. So
Good.
yeah, I think there was a little bit of confusion originally that anything that was supplied, and I think it is an option. We can purchase it through the kitchens if the teachers don't want to do that.
Mhm.
If they want to buy something through the cafeteria, that's great. And if we just need a little bit of lead time,
Mhm.
2 or 3 weeks because of ordering. But the teachers are welcome to purchase their own as long as it's on the approved list.
Awesome.
Other questions or thoughts? If you do, you can say I'm here, or you can email me, but I'm gonna meet with the union and go over this, and just wanted your feedback before I did that.
Sounds good.
All right, hopefully we can work something out, and maybe in August we'll have an MOU to get this finalized.
Very good.
And my last thing was just my evaluation. You all got, I think, the document itself.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
For those of you that have seen something like this before, if you're in education, you definitely have. Essentially, you're gonna rate me on 4 standards and then a summative, and that's on page 1. And their ratings are exemplary, proficient, needs improvement, or unsatisfactory, standard 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then the end of cycle evaluation. And then there are comments, and then you break down, like, page 3 is standard 1 standalone. If you mark me proficient in that, then you break it down into the indicators on page 3, which are curriculum, instruction, assessment, evaluation, and data-informed decision. So it starts with the whole, and then it breaks it into smaller parts for standard 1. And then standard 2 is management and operations, and there are 5 indicators for that: environment, human resources, scheduling, law, ethics, policies, and fiscal systems. And then standard 3 is family and community engagement, and there are 4 indicators for that. And the last one is professional culture, and there are, I think, 6 standards for that. I don't know if you wanted to comment on how we were going to do that. I know we talked about different ways to do that.
Well, I think I put it out to the other committee members to look at it and to share their thoughts with me. I did ask you to give us some evidence specifically for the standard 1. I felt that one was, the other 3, I felt that we had enough from, meetings and,
Sure.
information that you shared through meetings, but the first one I felt we needed a little bit more, and you have done that. And I think that Meg has given me her stuff. Ruth was on vacation.
So
She didn't do it while she was in Ireland. But yeah, we'll compile it,
Okay.
and I will do a final. And I
Perfect.
think we talked
And we'll
about
do
doing
that
it in August.
That's fine. If you want, I sent you electronic copies. I know that's a pain, and I don't want you to be at home printing everything. I have paper copies. I can run them through the copier if you'd like. So let me know, and I'll make a copy for you. And put it in.
So that's
standard
actually
one.
like the standard with the description
Oh,
of what is
like,
unsatisfactory, what is
I don't think we
needs
did. I can look up
improvement,
that
what
part
is.
Yeah.
on the
Yeah.
computer
Yep.
and then fill it
Yeah.
out on here.
But the evidence I sent you
Yep.
kind of outlines sort of what we did during the year to address standard one.
I know we're gonna table this, but I'd just like to say sort of a preemptive comment to doing this is that I very much appreciate the communication, and I've heard from many parents in town that very much like the emails that you send out, and so I think parents are feeling like they really know what's happening in the schools, and so I'd just like to commend you on that. Thank you. Mr.
So in standard 3, you
I
really-
did it! I did it!
Exceeds expectations.
I got that
Not for
one.
nothing, but no. Not that I'm trying to get a good grade. or
I
anything.
just
We
wanted
in
to say
schools
that
love good
now,
grades.
so thank you for
Thank you.
doing all that, yeah. It's very helpful, it's
Good.
nice.
Yeah.
Yep,
I like doing it, and I think it's important.
yep.
Yeah, and it's always like no matter what comes up, even if it seems like so minor, you always let us know
Yep,
regardless
what's
of
going
what's
on.
going on. So that way
Yep.
we're aware and we're not
It's
caught
helpful.
off guard by some,
No,
you know,
no,
either
I don't like
Facebook
being caught
post
off
or,
guard.
you know,
I
caught
know
in
you
the
don't want to
grocery
be caught
store
off
or
guard.
something.
Our principals and other administrators don't want to be caught off guard. They
Mhm.
want their staff to tell them if something comes up.
Yep,
So
Yeah.
it
Thank
it
you.
really is
Appreciate
important
it.
to do that.
helpful.
Good. And that's it. So if you need anything from me around evaluation, you have really the summer to work on it.
Yep.
So, let me know if you would like that. And I did attach a note for Elizabeth. She's been around a couple of meetings, and I didn't want to put her in a horrible position of trying to write an evaluation on, someone she really hasn't been able to observe for too long. Don't call Bill.
I've got plenty to say.
Yeah. Got the dirt. So, so if you do need anything, any of you, please.
Thank you.
I don't want to overload you with, I know teachers used to hand me binders like this.
Yeah, it can
And
be
I
a
don't want
hefty
to do
process.
that, and then I found myself doing this, and I'm like, no, send it to them, let them review it. If they want me to print it, I'll print it. I'm
Yeah.
not making a binder for
Yeah, it's a
everyone.
lot.
Because if people don't review it, then it's just a waste of time and resources, so, if you want something,
Well,
obviously.
actually, I'm gonna get out my magnifying glass.
Maria wanted standard one, which
great.
made the most sense.
It does make the most sense.
The others,
Yeah.
if you
No, I
want
Yep.
anything, if you feel like, you don't either have the background to know what we've been doing, or, want more behind it, feel free. The only thing I created on this was the front cover pages. Everything else is stuff that exists.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I always encourage teachers and principals to do with their evidence. I don't want you to
Make
create
Yeah.
evidence. I want natural evidence. The cover is just to describe what it is, which I, didn't take too long to type out. So,
Excellent.
if you need anything, let me know.
Thank you.
We will.
I'm all set.
So, moving on to the administrative reports, Mr. Evans.
Thank you. So I wanted to just start off with the 161st commencement exercises. I didn't count them all, but I think that's an accurate number. Graduated 31 seniors on June 3rd, and on a beautiful day and a wonderful ceremony. And for those of you that participated, thank you very much.
There actually were one nice article in the Quabog Current,
Mhm.
and then the Spencer New Leader had a nice photographic
Yeah,
cleanup.
it was great.
They were, yeah,
Mhm.
they were great.
Very nice.
I also wanted to thank all of the other people that make that ceremony happen, starting with the custodians, the class advisors, support staff, the school secretary. A lot of people go in to make that day happen, and it's always great. So thank you to everybody. Just in that theme, we've had A through I events, end of year events. So the spring concert, the junior prom, senior internship presentations were fabulous. Class day, the senior banquet, sports award ceremony, the high school academic awards, the middle school academic awards, the 8th grade step-up ceremony, and the 8th grade step-up dance. All within the last month.
Time to go home and sleep.
I'm going to take a nap very soon. No, it's very energizing to go through those, and it really does remind us of all the great work that's happening during the school year. And it's easy to forget that when you're in the weeds, So to have these celebrations, it's more than just ceremony. It really is a way to re-energize all of us, I think. So thank you again to everybody who helps make those possible. In particular, Allison Bulger, who prints up every single award that I hand out. I have to sign them all, but she has to print them all up, and it's a lot. So I appreciate her diligence in making sure those all get done right. Only one misspelled name that we know. So we also recently completed the student and staff feedback on the new schedule that we implemented in January. Both the staff and the students were surveyed using SurveyMonkey. We got good responses in terms of numbers. I indicated in my report that that I would include the results in the folder. They are there because I just put them in 10 seconds ago. So if you haven't had a chance, or if you did get a chance and wondered where they were, they're in there now. But what you'll see is that there's overwhelming positive feedback from both groups on the schedule change. The only thing that was not, yes, that's great. The only thing that didn't come in above 50% in terms of keeping it the way it was the question of whether we should change the length of long block, and the students said by 52% said we should make it shorter, which we already did. We had reduced it from 72 minutes to 65 minutes, and I feel like that's as short as we can go if we want to really do have comprehensive labs and science classes. So I appreciate their feedback, but we're probably not going to shorten the long block. I think really what it means is we need to have a conversation amongst ourselves and faculty about how we teach that long block, so kids don't see it as 65 minutes is too long. And that may be an instructional piece. Other than that, all of the feedback has been so positive. We will definitely keep the bell schedule as it is for next year. You might look at the arrangement of the periods, but that's really not a significant change. But the length of the periods, moving to a flex block, a second period out of directed study at the end of the day, expanding the flex block, and keeping the bell schedules to only 2 versus 6. All of that seems to have struck a chord and has gone well.
So those things are going to happen next year. So the 22-minute directed study block is now going to be 40 minutes. It's going to be second period of the day. The long block is going to be shortened 72 to 65 minutes.
Well,
is that what we
already
tried
has been.
mid-year? Is that what we went
Yeah.
to mid-year?
So they're going
Okay.
to keep it that way now,
Okay.
moving forward.
Got it. Okay.
It wasn't just, do you think this is a good idea? This is, you've been doing it for 5 months. Do
Right.
you like it?
Yeah, this
And
is what
then
we
it-
piloted, right?
Right,
You-
yep.
Yeah, okay. And so reducing variations on the bell schedule, that's because you had multiple different days, 6 different days with 6.
So
bell
there are
schedules?
7 days because you drop 1 period there's 7
Okay.
periods and you drop 1 every day. So
Okay.
day 1 you drop 8 block.
Okay.
The trick was that we had a rotating long block, but we had 3 periods that were frozen in the schedule.
Okay.
So in order for each period to get a long block, you had to change the bell. So the first 4 days, A,
Wow.
B, C, and D. And then on day 5, E had to be long. Well, E is somewhere else in the schedule, so there's a different bell configuration.
And E is
So-
somewhere else in the schedule because things like Mount Wachusett, sharing staff between 2 buildings,
Yeah.
things like that interrupted the idea of putting E
Right.
in the afternoon
Okay.
or the morning. or
Where
wherever.
all the other long blocks went.
Yeah.
Right. So what we did was we realized that we could unfreeze 2 of the blocks so long as we kept them in the morning, and that allowed us to put them in where the other long blocks occurred. So now the only long block that had to, the only schedule change we had to do was when the Mount Wachusett teacher came.
Yeah.
That we couldn't put wherever we wanted for that person's sake. So instead of having 6, literally 6.
Literally
And plus, the other thing was advisory needed to be longer than 22 minutes.
Yep.
Now with flex block, advisory fits in perfectly.
Okay.
So any other time that we wanted, studio, used to change it for studios.
Yep.
But now that fits into the flex block.
Okay.
So all of that worked in so that we only change the bells for day 7, regardless of what else is happening that day. Advisory, studio, it doesn't matter. And days 1 through 6, the bells stay the same. So that makes it much more predictable,
Yeah.
and and a little less haphazard feeling.
Yeah.
So that's again, all the feedback has been very positive.
Good.
So we're very pleased. Any other questions about the schedule?
Flex block you have every day?
We have flex block every day. Yes. I want to highlight a program we ran, sponsored through the school council. We called it Life as a Grown-Up Day, but it's really an attempt to connect adults from the community with kids in the building. So we had 13 adults, 5 of whom were college students, come in on June 8th and do presentations to our high school students about what it is to be a grown-up. So a lot of it was career focused, but some of it was really about personal journeys and how people found their way to the thing that they love doing and the different pathways that they took. College students were in 2 different panels, and they talked about their college experience and took questions, and those were primarily for our juniors. But again, very positive feedback, both from the presenters and anecdotally from the kids. We haven't done a formal feedback with the kids. One of the interesting pieces of feedback was we should have done it in the fall, because that might have helped them realize how important their school year was, instead of now, I wish I had paid more attention, or whatever it was that they were wishing. So we do want to continue that and hopefully expand it. We only did it with high school students to begin with, but if we have enough presenters, we can certainly look at expanding it. But it was nice, people from different walks of the community came and volunteered their time. It was really much appreciated. And finally, I just want to talk about goals for next year. We're still continuing our school change leadership, school change process. So on deck for next year with regard to that is a legislative body within the school that is comprised of mostly students, but also adults, excuse me. And their job will be to look at policies, procedures, and make recommendations for change that they think would make the environment better.
Is
and
that
make
the-
those recommendations.
Is that the thing Mr. Rigney?
Yes.
Okay. Presented on earlier, okay.
Yeah, the committee has been Mr. Rigney, Ms. Alford, Ms. Malone, and Mr. Pettit, and they've worked at creating he came in and did his presentation on the bylaws and got your approval. So I think we're going to be ready to run elections for that in the fall and have our first sessions hopefully before Christmas. We're also going to start our junior class, preparing them for a senior focus project that will happen the year that they are seniors. And I'm looking forward to getting them psyched about picking a topic that they like and staying with it for a full year.
What would an example be, just out of curiosity?
Well, I'm going to use some of the examples that we saw at Parker Charter School up in Devens, where that's really the model that we've been using. And I was fascinated by some of the things that those kids were doing. The ethics of zoos,
Okay.
stand-up comedy. There's a couple on environmental issues. I'm not going to remember exactly what they were. But they really were about almost motorcycles. I think the kid took apart and put together a motorcycle and documented the entire process.
Cool.
Yeah. So it really was about using something that they're passionate about to demonstrate the learning that they've done in the course of their career. So it wasn't just, hey, I really like stand-up comics, here's my favorite ones. It was, what's the history of stand-up comedy? What makes a good stand-up comic bit? Why do some succeed and some not? Like an analysis of it. So that it's really in-depth, and the presentation is done to the entire community. And they get somebody mentor them through the process. There's time built into their day for it. And we did a very similar thing years ago here before I arrived. So it's more of a resurrection than anything else. And some of the teachers that have been on that committee were here when we did that. So they bring some institutional knowledge to that, which is great.
Sounds interesting.
I think it will be.
We need to have maybe someone come and present to us too.
Certainly. part of that. And then we're implementation of the revised learning expectations. Similar process, we want kids as a promotion requirement to present a portfolio of stuff that demonstrates how they met the learning expectations, the school-wide learning expectations. We want to expand the Life as a Grown-Up program, and we definitely want to work on our social emotional work with our middle school students, which I feel like we could have done better this year, and I think we want to really work more of a team model next year with our 7th and 8th grade staff to support those kids in a more proactive way.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Glazier.
I would just like to make a quick comment about the senior internships. There was a young lady who interned for us in the 1st grade. I don't know her. It was almost all year. Very consistent young lady.
There's a bunch of kids that came over, but the intern was Emma Schultz.
Okay, so Emma came, consistently worked in 1st grade, very polite, always punctual, always on time. She graduated last Sunday, right? Came in on Tuesday because she wanted to visit the kids one last time before summer. So she really just made connections with those kids, with the teacher. So I just love the program. We had some really great kids come through this building this year as interns, and just kudos to the program, because I just thought it was amazing that even after graduation she came back in to visit with the kids and wanted to spend a little more time with them before the summer. So I just thought that was pretty cool.
Thanks.
So a few events that have taken place in the last week or so, including up to and including today. So our field day happened, and I mentioned Mr. Nori as our sort of field day leader. But in addition to Mr. Nori, we had probably 30 to 35 parents here today volunteering throughout the course of the day. And it was hot, and it was sunny, and everybody was sweaty and sunburned by the end of the day. But we had parents running probably 8 or 9 stations across the entire field between water relay races, football tosses. We had the bounce house set up, which was like a relay obstacle this year. We had a kickball game going, and then the kids would rotate from station to station. And those kinds of events, especially field day, would not be possible without parents. We just do not have enough teachers to run a field day like we had today. And this has been several years now, many years now that we've had this field day. And I mentioned Mr. Nori really is sort of the leader of that, and we're going to have to find a really great replacement for him as he ages out of North Brookfield Elementary. But really just thank you to all of the parents, as it really is not possible without them. So I say thank you. And it was an awesome day, and most of you were here at some point throughout the day, so thank you.
Don't forget your silly string.
Oh yeah, so the kindergarten, we had our penny wars again this year, and the kindergarten ran away with the competition. They always do, and their reward for winning the penny wars was to silly string me, and there's some pictures and video of it on Facebook. They each got
Those
2
will be
cans of
shared
silly
widely.
string.
No worry.
What's that?
So those will be shared widely.
Oh, I'm
don't
sure
worry.
I'm sure of it. And my eye's still burning. Even with goggles on, I got some in my eye, and it's still burning a little bit. But I think those are the kinds of things that the kids will certainly remember. The hair dyeing last year, the silly string this year. It keeps them engaged. It keeps them excited about about school. So I love those kinds of events. So thank you for that. Last Thursday we had the summer reading kickoff, and we mentioned three names earlier: Mrs. Pratt, Mrs. Davis, and Miss Simpson. They were really the leaders behind the summer reading kickoff. Between collecting, I don't know, what do you think, 5,000 books, maybe more, thousands of books. Every every table in our cafeteria was covered in books. They spent hours before school, after school, organizing, sorting, arranging books for that event. And they said, I believe it was the largest turnout of parents and kids that they've had so far.
Wow.
So thank you very much to them. And every kid left here with at least 4 or 5 books that they can read over the summer. So it's just an awesome event. And then any of the books that were left over, Miss Pratt boxes them up and takes them home and stores them until next year. So we'll be collecting books starting right away. This Thursday we're going to have our last all school of the year, and we've been giving out themed awards all year long, and every month we've had a different theme. What's a little bit different about the month of June is the teachers get to pick the awards they give this month. And so they'll give out 2 awards, but they don't have to stick to a particular theme. So I kind of peeked at a couple. They're giving out some for, most musical, they're giving out some for best artist, and so they're giving out some themed awards that we didn't actually have categories for the year. So there'll be some interesting themed awards on Thursday. And we also have a couple more singers. One of the things that's been fantastic this year is we've had some really talented kids get up and sing in front of the whole school. First graders, second graders, fifth graders. Some of them are singing for the very first time in front of an entire school, which is pretty amazing. And the second grade class is going to do their Reader's Pledge, which is a pretty long-standing tradition with Miss Sullivan and Miss Servant. And so they're going to make they're going to say the Reader's Pledge, and I think the plan is to get the whole school to do it on Thursday as well. And then before the
That'd be a great
roof
Facebook
call-
Live. See
I will
everybody.
try to, yes, I'll try to Facebook Live that one for sure. And then the last thing I would just want to point out, and maybe if you dropped your children off here, was yesterday morning in this before school, you may have seen some students and some staff standing out here on the corner of Oakham Road and School Drive. We had a presentation maybe about a month ago from a lady from Amnesty International, and she presented to the 6th grade, and after she left, the students just kind of did a little bit more research about Amnesty International, and they wanted to do something themselves. So we actually had a group of about 12 students who sat down with their teacher. Mr. Marr is one of our paraprofessionals in the building. He actually helped facilitate the presentation with the lady from Amnesty. And the kids sat down and said they want to present something. They want to pick a cause, and they want to present it to the community. And so they came together as a group, and they said that they wanted to do an anti-gun violence vigil. Not school violence, which is prevalent in the news. They wanted to just pick gun violence as a cause. They wrote a proposal. They submitted it to me. They submitted it to Mr. Lind. Actually did a presentation for him down at his office. It was approved by myself and Mr. Lind. And then they presented their vigil out on the corner yesterday morning. There were about 10 or 12 of them. They made signs. It was a peaceful vigil. And I commend them for taking on a really huge topic, and they did a really nice job. And the teachers were supportive. The families were the 10 or 12 families approved of it ahead of time. We made sure that the families were in support of them doing the vigil. And I think it was a really great opportunity for them to pick something that meant something to them and go out on the street and stand up for their cause. So kind of a neat opportunity.
I saw them this morning, so it was a great thing.
Maybe it was this morning, I guess.
So just to follow up,
It felt like days ago.
Maybe
it was this morning.
I follow Bob
That's right, it's Monday.
Marzano. Bob
It's Monday.
Marzano is an educational researcher, kind of one of the gurus in education. And he sent out a tweet today that reads this: when students are able to use what they have learned to affect change in their communities directly, they are much more likely to answer affirmatively to the emblematic question, is this important? And I sent that to Mrs. Priestley,
Right.
because she's the teacher who they were working with, and said, that's what education's for. They heard about something, it piqued their interest, they researched it, and then they followed up in some way to affect change in their community. Don't know if anybody will change their opinion on anything from those kids being out there on the corner today, but they did something that was essentially, to me, the definition of school, of education, and it was pretty awesome. And Mr. Meyer said there was a guy walking across the street who kind of wasn't rude or disrespectful, just said, have you guys heard of the Second Amendment? And they have. They've researched it, and part of their presentation was, we're not against the Second Amendment, we're just against the violence that's associated with guns. We think it needs to be safer. Like, they read the Second Amendment, they understood it, they understood the right to bear arms. I actually asked them some really sort of more challenging, sophisticated questions about the way the Second Amendment is written, and it talks about, you know, the right to have a militia. And they said, yeah, we've thought about that, but we think it means anybody, not just if you're in the militia. It was just very mature, very sophisticated discussions and thought that they put behind this, and for them to do that, I thought was great. It wasn't a political statement. It was about, you know, Second Amendment, about guns rights. They just said people need to be safe with guns because too many people are being hurt. Like, out of the mouths of babes, right? Like, that makes all the sense in the world. But they really looked into the potential sort of disagreement with that statement because of how people look at different issues like that. You know, people say we end gun violence. Oh, you just want to take away guns, kind of response, or vice versa. That was not their message. Their message was all about ending violence. It was great.
There was not a lot of foot traffic on this part of this Ocam and North Main, but they prepared answers to a lot of those bullet point questions that Mr. Linda talked about. They had answers to a lot of questions in case they were questioned, if anybody stopped. And we anticipated, and we talked to Chief Smith, and he's like, well, I'll be down here if you need me, but you know, if anybody did want to stop and talk to them about it, they were prepared to talk about it, and they had their ideas, and it was really
And
well
they were
done.
supervised
really well done.
by adults,
Absolutely.
so they weren't out there alone either.
Oh, no.
But it was great.
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah.
I also just wanted to point out that I am very happy to say that every grade has gone, is going on
yeah.
a field trip this year, so.
Yeah, and in some cases,
huge.
multiple. The third grade actually came to me a week ago. We pulled this field trip together pretty quickly. Fourth grade, my apologies. They're going to walk to the town library tomorrow, and every child who needs one is going to get a library card for the summer. So they're just going to do a quick walking field trip downtown and come right back. But that was one of the initiatives on the fourth grade teachers wanted to get everybody a library card. So,
Good.
yeah.
Thank you.
I just wondered if you had any 2018-19 goals that you wanted to share with us. It was actually nice to hear sort of what your focus might be at the high school. So.
Yeah, and we actually talked about it in our administrative council meeting this morning as some, planning for next year.
Yeah.
We're going to be moving into the writers workshop. Really delving into the writers workshop. We've been doing readers workshop for several years now, transitioning to the writers, and I don't know if I actually mentioned this or not. Mrs. Pratt is going to be changing her role a little bit next year. One of the things that she's going to be taking on is more of a instructional coach. So she's going to still be doing interventions with kids, which is sort of her forte. But I've also noticed, as many of us have, real leadership in her teaching, and she has that ability, which not a lot of people do, is that ability to teach adults too. And so we're moving her into that role. So I really want to be supportive of her in that. This is brand new for North Brookfield, and I really see it as essential. A lot of schools and districts in our area are moving to literacy coaches and math coaches, and we're so invested in our literacy program. We're going to sort of scale back a little bit of the work with Teachers for Teachers, which is we're on a 5-year track to sort of scale them back anyway. I want to embed some more professional development within our district, and as Mr. Lind has talked about, building capacity within our own staff. So I really want to focus on that. Ms. Powers, our curriculum director, is not here tonight, but she's doing a tremendous amount of work on science leadership, getting some of our science teachers into professional development programs so they can come back and train us how to do certain things. So I think professional development is going to be a huge focus of mine. And then also we've talked about PBIS. I want to increase the level of PBIS that we're doing. One of the things I would love to do for this coming school year is the school store. We used to have a school store where kids could earn tokens, they could earn points to cash into the school store. And that's a big component of PBIS that I'd like to bring in next year as well. So I have lots of things on my to-do list.
On your summer to-do list to get ready.
Those are a couple of the big ones, yeah.
It's nice to hear. Thank you for sharing.
No problem.
Mr. Rosenthal.
Hi, thank you. So I don't have as much going on in special education as the buildings do, so I'm actually going to skip right into that vision part.
Yeah.
So
what I was looking at for goals for special education or the student service department for next year. First, I want to start looking at the programs. We want to continue our focus on the zones of regulation curriculum. The zones of regulation curriculum is used to help students develop strategies for coping with frustrations or anxiety. Actually, it's a model that goes well with social emotional learning, and really helping students to regulate their emotions so they can access the curriculum. Working with Mr. Glazier a lot with this, we've actually started talking a little bit about doing it as a general ed piece where we can get into kindergarten, first and second grade, the curriculum. So our OT, Gail Miller, actually runs the curriculum for the programs. And we're looking to see if we can get it actually into a general ed capacity. So the hope for that is we won't have to do some special education instruction if it's all embedded into early years, and hopefully they develop those skills where they won't need that specialized design instruction. So very exciting in that, especially since the program is very beneficial and it's proven to be successful. We just purchased Michelle Garcia Winter's social thinking curriculum. This curriculum is designed to help students develop strategies and skills around interpersonal relationships, as well as, reading your environment. Previously, we had a model that was Michelle Garcia Winter's younger for the elementary school. It's called Social Detective. We're going to keep with that, but we're now going to expand it to a higher level of thinking. You actually will hear people say to students, or your students might actually come home and say, I'm not sure what I'm thinking about that, or how does that affect me? It really develops internalizing what's going on around you, so it helps you talk with peers and adults a little bit better. So that's really exciting. We're getting that into the programs, and hopefully, just like the zones of regulation, we'll get that expanded out into the general education curriculum or in the classrooms. For our students that require a little bit more training for free and appropriate public education, those are our students that might work on vocational skills, travel training, daily living skills. We are that's our Sweets, Treats, and a Little Bit of Heat program. We're looking at now, how does those skills that we're teaching in the coffee shop model translate into a vocation, into a career? And how do we expand, not just doing it there, but also how does this generalize or translate to other careers? Because not everyone's going to go into a coffee shop. Some might, mailroom or something of that nature. So we're looking for work opportunities outside of just the coffee shop model. So we're going to keep looking for that. And at the end of next year, we'll probably be starting to reach out to some of the local businesses and see if they have availability for an internship outside, or if there's something we can do within our school that would benefit the students and actually translate to the working world. So we're looking at that at the end of next year. Inclusion. Our inclusion model will have ongoing focus on least restrictive for students. And what does that mean? We want to make sure we limit the overuse of special education. We want to make sure students are being able to demonstrate skills independently, and that sort of thing. So there's professional development that I've been working with Ms. Powers around, and having opportunities to work with not just the special education staff, the general education staff, building level, district level, that sort of thing. What that does is it translates into my next point, which is our district curriculum accommodation plan. We did some training this year with the teachers on what that means. What is a DCAP? What is an accommodation that's general ed compared to special education accommodation? What can teachers do within the classroom to help support students? That also translates into the response to intervention that we kind of talked about with the social emotional learning, with that screener, but it talks more than just social emotional learning. It talks about academic interventions and that sort of thing. So we worked hard on the DCAP, and next year's focus is on that tiered intervention. What does it mean to have a first level intervention, a second level intervention, a third level? And how can teachers use that to, one, help students? For me, it also looks at reducing special education numbers. If you can intervene early and often, it typically reduces your disability numbers, which is always the focus. Continued work with that positive behavior intervention supports that we talked about. We have 7 staff right now identified that want to come and do some curriculum work over the summer. I know Ms. Powers would talk about that a little bit if she was here. So I just want to make mention of that, that there is curriculum work that's going to be working on over the summer. And really, with that bullying intervention and prevention, we're looking to really embed it into some of that social emotional learning, so it's not just a standalone, because the more you look at a community that's supportive and a community that recognizes good deeds instead of focuses so much on discipline, you see a change in the school. You see a change in the students that I want to do good because it's recognized. And really with the monthly awards that go on at the elementary school and the advisory, that's that foundation. You start there and you can build off of that. So we got the groundworks going, and we want to continue to increase it and make it a living, breathing community.
Do you feel like your DCAP, like you've done your trainings, or do you feel like you probably like there's more you want to do? Yeah.
That's the
It's
thing
ongoing.
that
It's gotta be almost.
Yeah.
We talked about it, and this, it was a little slow getting off the ground this year, but I think probably for next year, almost monthly.
Yeah.
There's gotta be some monthly conversation about it at staff meetings. Maybe, a question of the month or something that comes up that we can highlight for teachers, because I still think there's confusion around how to use it,
Yes.
when to use it.
Yep.
When to come to a child study meeting and ask for more help.
Yep.
Has the teacher done their due diligence? Have they spent time talking to the parents, or, assessing the students' needs before coming forward? So I think we were able to maybe make 2 presentations, I think, to staff this year, but really I think it needs to be a monthly type of presentation.
Yeah.
At least short, 5 minutes, at every
Yeah.
staff meeting.
Yeah.
It's a living, breathing document. This thing is always being changed and manipulated to meet the students' needs and where the supports are required. The DCAP that we last had before this one had an Alpha Smart, which is an assistive technology device that is about 12 years out of date. So it was as an accommodation. But still used. So, and we now have the Chromebooks and so many other word processors and assistive technologies. So that's what happens though, when it kind of gets forgotten about or not revisited every year or every month. That's what happens. It collects dust. Absolutely, we want to keep that fresh.
I also think I feel, and this is just my experience, but I've, done the DESE classes on inclusive learning, and I feel like they give you great examples of what it looks like. So I think, like talking about it, but then also saying best practice, or this is something I've tried, or this is something that worked for me, or I just think it's nice to be able to actually see it, because you read an intervention on paper, but then, implementing can be helpful.
I mean, our child study team meets twice a week, and we have the responsibility of making recommendations to Greg for special education referrals in some cases. And so I want to make absolutely certain that everything has been tried at the classroom level. That I have data to support my decision to go to Greg with an assessment request. And that starts with the DCAP, and again, there's suggestions, there's recommendations, there's intervention recommendations on that document. But like I said, I want to make sure that when they're coming to me, teachers are coming to me with a referral, that everything that they could possibly have tried over a 6 or 8 week period has been tried before moving forward. Because once you move forward with that special education request, it's a much different process. And a lot of time and a lot of staff hours go into that request. So we want to make sure we do our due diligence before moving forward.
Meg, I find the disconnect is the feedback to teachers is often like, what have you tried? And where I think we, and not unlike, to me, every other district I've seen, fall short is in helping teachers pick the interventions that are appropriate for the challenges a kid might be facing in their classroom.
With that kid.
How to take
Yep.
data on the
Yep.
success or failure of that intervention.
Yep.
And then, you know, how to move forward from there. Too often, you know, what I've heard is, well, let's just do a referral for special education, whether it's from teachers or parents, and that can't be the first. In fact, it's a requirement of part of the IEP process to go through that child study, student support team, whatever you know schools call it. But I think teachers want to do the right thing, but sometimes, you know, they want the best and quickest way to help kids. Like, how can I get this done so kids get the support they need so they can be successful? And so if we fill in that gap of, here are interventions to try, here's how you take data on it, here's, we want you to come back and see us in a month or 6 weeks with data that says how this child did with whatever they're struggling with, academic, social, emotional, behavioral challenge. Here's what you try, here's the data, was it successful? And if we do that, I think next year that would be a really, really good step.
Yeah.
If we just work on that process of giving teachers support in interventions, and some of those interventions they'll need support in the classroom, like the observations, behavioral observations, or academic observations, or someone, you know, with expertise like a Robin Pratt or a Teresa Taylor, or you know, variety of other experts in our building who can go in and observe and get information so that we can continue to support teachers in implementing strategies at a tier 1 or maybe a tier 2 level, because that goes under the whole premise of least restrictive environment. You
Inclusive
start with
learning.
that, and as you guys all know, going through the process for special education is challenging. It's not only expensive, but it's hard on kids. It's hard on kids sometimes, and certainly kids who require those services, it's important to do. But sometimes, you know, it's going to continue to happen, but we want to lessen the amount of time kids get qualified for special education, only to not need it anymore relatively quickly. Maybe if we had done some of those strategies, and
Earlier
again, I'm
on.
not blaming us alone, because I've seen it in other schools, and I know I've talked to other administrators, and I'm sure if you talk to other teachers, they all go, oh, like, they want us to do these interventions, but like when, where, how, what, you know, it's a lot. And I think providing that support is really important to me.
I think all the things that we've talked about between Greg, myself, Bill, you know, zones of regulation, social emotional learning,
Yep.
they're all steps to try to prevent.
Yep.
You know, children who are struggling with social and emotional needs in the classroom might present as someone who needs special education services when really they just need coping strategies.
Yep.
They need how to learn calming strategies,
Yep.
and that's what Zones does. And we had a special education leadership meeting last week, and we talked about, you know, doing the zones of regulation training school-wide, but then even moving it to the middle school. It's a K-8 program, I believe. You know, so if all of our kids get zones of regulation training here, and then they move it to the middle school, you know, it just makes sense.
Yeah.
And expanding PBIS to the high school makes sense because we're doing it here. So all of the things that we've talked about tonight are really in hopes of.
All part and parcel
It's
of
all
the
part of
same
the process.
plan.
It's also,
Yeah.
you know, it seems like little bits and pieces, but it all fits together.
Yep.
It's a big part of the process.
Is the decap online?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, Ms. Powers, myself, and Ms. Conley, our school psych, really worked about 4 or 5 days, almost 4 days, and putting that together. And Ms. Powers, you know, her tech guru.
She's really
She
good.
do it
Yes.
online.
Good.
It's something to. There's a template for the teachers. It's quite a. We try to make it as easy as possible for teachers to just see what the accommodations are, check them off, collect some data on it, dates, times, how long, that sort of thing. Because just talking about a special education referral, if you're found eligible for special education, it's a 3-year process. You've now started that 3-year process, where if we did the interventions, a tiered intervention's 4 to 6 weeks.
Yep.
And maybe we've developed that skill in that time, and we can avoid that 3-year process.
Yep.
So that's really what we're looking at.
Okay, thank
And
you.
can I just ask, I should have asked this earlier, what does DCAP stand for?
District Curriculum Accommodation Plan.
Thank you.
And essentially, that's what are the strategies can we use, the interventions we can use with any kid to help them if they're struggling with something. So if you look at the DCAP, it might say, kids who are struggling with organization, kids who are struggling with, reading,
Attentional.
kids are struggling with, areas, not, so there are, and then there's a list of various interventions teachers or staff can choose from that might work with different kids. So this might work, that might not. And so it's sort of a menu to say what might work best with this child.
And it's a state mandated document. The state says that each district should have one, but too often can it be, oh, just checked off that we have that document. Where we want this to be actually useful. So that's really the focus.
And they did an awesome job, but they did what any good educator does. They looked at other districts and said, what do they have? And
Right.
they pulled together a big list, from 10 other districts, and then they picked and choose what worked.
And there
So
were
it was
multiple,
really great.
multiple variations of the
Good.
North Brookfield document. There were
did.
several iterations
Seven.
of the document. Yeah, they just
We
kind
kinda-
of consolidated.
Yeah.
So, Mrs. Powers isn't here today. She did want me to just point out that she did attach an end-of-the-year curriculum summit report that you can review and certainly email her if you have any questions. But this curriculum summit work is really important. It's really important. To me, it's the main focus of the director of curriculum job is to connect with staff and kind of figure out where they are and where they're going, and to do that every year, and to meet with staff and to plan and help them get to where they're going, which is a never-ending process. Next year, she'll do it again, and then the following year, we'll do it again. It may look a little different each year. It might be focus areas from one year to the next, but she did a great job with it. The rest is all wonderful too. Some specific stuff on science and math and mentoring that she can certainly answer any questions folks have. The curriculum summits was a big part of the work she needed to do this year. And you
I
also
think-
have Mr. Schultz.
I was just gonna say that, I think Ms. Powers has been, excellent addition to the
Agreed.
administrative staff. Appreciate
Agreed.
everything that she's done this year so far.
Yeah, a lot of work.
Yeah, definitely a partner for me.
Yeah.
I love it. I'm sure you guys agree.
And I think from the principals and other administrators' standpoint, there are things that they know they wanted to do, but there weren't enough hours in the day to do them. And having someone like Mrs. Powers come in and sort of spearhead the curriculum work, be the liaison between the teachers, the principals, and other administrators, it's been, I think we've gotten a ton done.
Yeah.
We really do.
Yeah.
For year one. There's a lot more to do, and it will never end, but it went really well.
I just would like to point out on Mr. Shaw's form, I know we talked about this last time, but just the petunias that were donated by Inishowen Farms by Tammy and Mark Doherty, they look beautiful. They really spruce the place up, so thank you very much
And Mr.
for
Shaw
the
does have a
donation.
green thumb.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
you
Like if I was responsible for them, they probably would look that
Look,
good.
they look beautiful.
And every morning he carries, we don't have great faucets on the outside of these buildings. I don't know who designed there's no spigots outside he carries water pails every morning out to water them.
To water 'em.
Just keeps them going. But
Yeah, they look
every
really
morning.
nice.
They
That
do
was a
look
nice
You
donation.
won't have to.
And we'll hit that in a little
You
while.
won't have to.
And there was a lot of compliments on graduation, on the grounds look so
Grounds,
nice.
yes.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Great. And he did say once that he said he'd like to send a shout out to his staff. It also helped in his transition and to say thanks for all they do to keep the school running and clean every day.
Nice. All right, I have one last question, and I feel like if I'm wondering, then other parents are too. When do kids get their assignments for teachers for next year, Mr. Glazer? You knew what was gonna happen.
Report cards come home Thursday with
Yes,
kids,
this
Okay.
and the
Thursday.
teachers are writing them in the comments
Okay.
section of the report cards.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
you're welcome.
So, FY budget, FY 19?
FY19 budget, we've had 2 budget workshops the last 2 Tuesdays, the 5th and the 12th, and we have town meeting coming up Friday, so you folks know where we are. We have 3 scenarios out there. School committee budget of $6,179,692, that represents a 5.3% increase. The FinCom budget of $6,013,600, 2.5% increase, and a Board of Selectmen budget proposal of $5,967,018, or 1.6% increase. At our budget discussions, one of the things that we talked about was knowing that we have great needs for our school district after many years of cuts and very low increases. But we also understand the town's perspective in terms of resources. At that meeting, we came to some agreement that the committee would support, a little bit reluctantly because of all the needs of our kids and our programs in schools, the finance committee proposal of 2.5% increase.
I think at this point, I am hoping to be able to make it to the FinCom meeting this week. I believe there is one. I think Maria,
Yes.
you're planning on going,
Yes.
so I think we're looking forward to going to that meeting and seeing if anything has changed, or if numbers are more solid, or if we have more information about what is actually going to be on the warrant, if it's the Board of Selectmen numbers, if it's the FinCom numbers. I definitely feel like there's still some things that are not solidified, so I think it'll be good to be able to go and get some more information, hopefully.
So, yeah, and that's the frustrating part. I called to find out if we knew the number on the warrant yet, and we did
Still
not.
don't.
We do not.
I
So
would
they
suspect
publish
we're
it?
not gonna know until Friday.
Don't they publish the warrants?
I think they
They
do,
do, but they don't think they have to put.
they don't put the
Yeah,
number
They
on
don't
it.
have to put.
not until they read it at the meeting.
So, the plan is that we would seek the finance committee budget amount moving forward. And I think that's, if you kind of use, and I always kind of use 2% as an average inflation rate, and we get 2.5%, we do close the gap a little bit. And it will allow us to do some things. We'll have to be, very thrifty and efficient, but everything that's in your current proposed budget would not be eliminated. I think, for example, for me, the number one priority has been the STEM teacher, getting a STEM program at both the elementary and high school, expanding the high school one. We have a couple courses, but to really add some more courses there, and getting a STEM program here at the elementary school with a dedicated teacher to that, I think we would be able to keep that.
I think at this point, I feel anyways, it's really hard to say what we could or couldn't keep, or what we would or wouldn't be able to do. I think that there's just a lot of sort of
There would be
things
some
that are-
priorities,
yeah.
some choices to make, but that would
Yeah.
be something that I would, strongly advocate for, because I think it's a program builder, and that's sort of been my theme all year, as you know, is it's about building programs. Does that mean we would lose something? Yeah. I mean, unfortunately, those are choices that we have to make, and they're never easy, but I think it'll be worthwhile to discuss it and look at it, but.
I feel like we've talked a lot about this budget, and I'd like to actually know what it is.
I hear you.
Yeah, we've done a lot of planning, we've had a lot of workshops. I appreciate administrators for coming to those and working with us, any family feedback. But at this point, I just want to know what the budget is, and then we can talk about what we're going to do with it.
Sure.
So, and preschool is one of those things. We talked at our last meeting about possibly having to add another preschool section.
Yeah.
So that's something we would have to account for in our budget if that's the case, so.
So, you want me to move on to
Yeah,
that? Okay.
please move on to it.
So preschool program, after ongoing, we've been looking at this, and after the meeting, as I said, we would delve into it a little further. So kind of to cut to the chase, we don't believe that we're gonna need another section.
Okay.
So our students who are waitlisted have found other options because they were waitlisted, so they immediately went.
Okay.
Parents need to make plans. Some of our incoming students will not be joining our program. They'll have some related services only, so they don't join the classroom, they just come for those services.
Okay.
And adding another section wouldn't help us all that much in terms of adherence to the regulations. We would still be out of whack based on our size and numbers. So DESE and EEC, Department of Education and the Early Childhood Wing of the state government, EEC, have a waiver process to be outside their recommended numbers, which we've submitted a waiver for, and that's in your packet. Essentially, it's saying we're not going to be able to meet your numbers and ratios because of the setup that we have. So currently, if you remember, we had, I think, 30 kids and 31 kids, and 15 of them were special education. Well, if we break that into 3 sections, it's still going to be sections with over 50% special education, and that's not allowed. So no matter how we'll have smaller class size, but we'll still have ratios that exceed the amounts that are recommended or required by regulation. So we need a waiver. So instead of adding another class, I think getting the waiver puts us in position to be able to run classes the way we have. We'll have to see what the results are. We don't get to choose the answer to that request for a waiver, but we have submitted the waiver, and so I don't think we're going to need to add a section. In terms of our tuition rates, we are low. In your packet, I did include a chart of several school districts. It's a busy time of year, so not everyone responded. But about 10 or so school districts gave us some feedback. There are a couple that have $0 for preschool, including Ware and Webster. Dudley charges 0, but they only have 2 half-days a week. We're on the low side at $138 for basically every day, but half-day program. My recommendation is if the committee chooses to raise the rates, it would be to $160. I think that's in line with districts that are in our area. For example, Spencer East Brookfield is $160 for half days, 5 days a week. Oxford, 5 days a week, half days, $160. Auburn, half days, $165. So that's kind of the
And it's still not, at $160, it's still not a moneymaker. I mean, by any means, especially with 50% of our students on special needs, they don't pay. They don't
Yeah,
pay
this is
anything, so
only a
it's-
payment for
and it's a
students
sliding
who are
scale
regular.
for others, so. Not a moneymaker.
So, and then to support students who, from families who are free or reduced lunch, for that fee to increase from $90 to $110.
Do you want us to vote on this now?
You can, or you don't have to. It is a voting item for the rates, but if you have a discussion and choose not to raise the rates, then we can table it. It's just.
Well, I think it's probably something that if we are going to raise the rates, it's something we need to decide because parents
People
will need to know before August.
I know, that's what I was thinking too.
We'll send out we send out a acceptance letter, and that there's a initial first month fee to hold the spot. So if we do
Okay.
decide, we'll have to send out another letter and just talk about the increase.
So just to say.
Well, I mean, is it something that people have already paid a deposit?
So
Is it
yes,
something that cannot be
so
grandfathered in?
We could probably, yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, if you guys wanna vote that way, that's something, we did do that just so we know who's coming.
Right.
Yeah.
How many,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
what
Sure,
wait
yes.
list we had.
Yep.
And so, pretty much, we received the last seat, to save the seat today. So, if you guys let us know, we can always, send out another form.
Sure. So, how do you guys feel about raising it to 160, the recommended amount?
I'm comfortable. Yeah, I'm comfortable raising it. Do we want to do something where we start it in October so people do have time for the increase? Are we less concerned about that, or?
Well, my feeling is if they've already paid a deposit, I don't think they need to pay the increase. But
Yeah.
just for September?
Just for September.
Just
So
for
yeah,
September.
So then begin in October would be the.
Like in October.
And then you
Yeah.
can let them know as of whenever the October bill is due that it will be raised.
Yeah, I did notice that, like, in Millbury, it says, like, if parents want to prepay, they get a discount. I don't know if that's something we might want to consider too, or.
Right, so in Millbury,
Just
they
to
have to
throw
pay
that
the
out
whole
there.
bill
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
in one payment. And I forget what the total cost was.
260.
For like
Yeah.
3,000.
Right, so
Like
it's, for 10 months, so it's
$260.
$2,600, they get
Ooh.
$100, but they have to write a check for $2,500.
Oh, well, so they only get, that's not a,
They get $100
Yeah,
off
I didn't
a
know if it
yearly
was
bill.
anything we were interested in.
Well, I don't-
Talking to other directors, the reason why they do that is sometimes it's hard to track down people to pay monthly.
Yeah.
And there's this year we did not have a single person
Issue?
not
No,
pay
we did
for
great
this
this
year.
year.
That's
Okay.
We have
good.
a pretty good system.
well, I also
Good.
don't think that we have a population that would be able to pay 10 months in advance.
Very few, probably.
Agreed.
I couldn't.
Not many people.
So,
So the recommended fee increase is 165 a month. Free and reduced rate would be 110.
Is it 165 or 160? Because I thought you said 160.
165,
165.
I think, or 165.
165
And
is what's on our
110 for-
form.
I think I'd rather do 160 just
160.
because that's what
Is commensurate with it.
Spencer and East Brookfield and
Okay.
Oxford.
So does anyone, any other thoughts? See, if we're gonna vote on it, then someone make a motion.
Motion to
So we're saying
increase.
160 or 165?
160, and then
160.
free and reduced is
110.
Wait, so this is 160, not 165?
Well, I think because Spencer East Brookfield is 160, so I think that.
Okay.
Just stick with that.
Motion to increase our tuition rates for our preschool program for 160 for the month and for regular pay, and then 110 for free and reduced for beginning in October 2018.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, so we have the last reading of our policies.
You want me to do this?
And after we get through this, if they're all approved, then they become district law.
Just-
It's a lot of work. Thank you to Maria and Meg for their work on these policies. We got a lot more to do, but really good start.
So I think, did anyone have any questions about these ones before? Because if we read these and the third and final reading, then they'd have to go through it again. So if anyone has any questions about any of these.
Questions, issues, anything we wanted to?
Ruth, was your questions about the,
I already
Yeah,
asked
the
my
marijuana.
one question.
You did?
I think it was ADC.
Yep.
You had a question about that one?
Yeah,
And
about marijuana.
we figured out that it's actually covered in a different policy that we haven't done yet. So.
Okay. All right.
I feel like we did do all of our drug policies. I thought we had
Well,
to,
what was
so I
the
think
one
it's
that-
done. I think the one that it's cross-referenced with is done.
Oh,
You could check, but I'm
okay,
pretty
so
sure it's
on
good.
here,
And Meg mentioned earlier
did.
there was an edit on policy HF
HF.
to change in the second paragraph the pronoun
Pronoun,
agreement.
yeah.
Agreement,
So that it's inclusive.
rather than his services in the second paragraph, it was their services.
Their services,
Which
exactly.
makes more sense.
Excellent. Okay. Yeah.
All right, so this is the third and final reading. So as Mr. Lynn said, once we vote on these, then they are policy. ADC, smoking on school premises, CA, administrative goals, CB, school superintendent. CBD, superintendent's contract. CBI, evaluation of the superintendent. CCB, line and staff relations. CE, administrative councils, cabinets and committees. CH, policy implementation. CHA, development of procedures. CHC, procedures dissemination. CHCA, approval of handbooks and directives. CHCAE, approval of handbook and directives. CHD, administration in policy absence. CL, administrative reports, and CM, school district annual report.
Also EB, safety program, EBAB, pest management policy, EBB, first aid, EBC, emergency plans, EBCD, emergency closings, EC, buildings and grounds management, ECA, buildings and ground security, ECAC, vandalism, ECAF, security cameras in schools, EDC, authorized use of school-owned materials, EEAJ, motor vehicle idling on school grounds, EFC, free and reduced price food service, FA, facilities development goals, FCB, retirement of facilities, FF, naming of new facilities, FFA, bless you, memorials, HA, negotiation goals, HB, negotiations legal status, and HF, school committee negotiating agents. So for all of the policies that were just read, this would be third and final reading. Motion to approve the policies.
Second.
All the read policies.
All in favor?
Aye.
And so just to clarify, it would be a motion as amended, because
Yeah.
HF was changed. a bit.
Sorry, motion as amended with the
Right.
change in the policy HF to fix the pronoun.
Yeah.
Second,
Mm.
somebody want to second it
Second.
as amended? All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Sorry. New business, I have homeschool application for the Mayo family, a kindergartner. They've provided the documentation. Mrs. Powers runs the homeschool program, and communicates with parents regarding homeschooling, and has collected the information from them, and has indicated that they're ready to go, and this is for next school year, so they're coming earlier. And I recommend approval.
Motion to approve the homeschooling request for N Mayo for the 2018-19 school year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Don't know if you want to adjust the agenda, but I did receive another homeschool request for an incoming kindergartner from the Donace family. Again, same deal. Mrs. Powers and I reviewed this request. It came in after the agenda was done, that's why it's not on there.
Mhm.
But I'd prefer to be able to
Yep.
communicate with them sooner rather than the August meeting. And again, this would be the homeschool for a kindergartner of Shannon Donace.
Motion to approve the homeschool request for S. Donace kindergartner for the 2018-19 school year.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Then we have a number of donations. It was mentioned earlier by a couple of folks, but the Dohertys in Ishwin Farms donated to us a whole bunch of flowers. Were very helpful and gave us kind of reduced rates on planting soil and new planters, and were wonderful to work with. And Mr. Shaw couldn't wait to get up there. He loved it up there. And so they donated some wonderful flowers for our whiskey barrels. They didn't give us a price cost, but I would recommend acceptance of the donation.
Motion to approve the donation from Inishowen Farms of flowers for the grounds.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Again, mentioned earlier, Autistic Media Associates, Inc. Donated $165 for our students to be able to, second grade students to go to, I believe it's the Dr. Seuss Museum
Yes.
as their field trip. And I think it was Mrs. Slade, who is Artistic Media Associate,
Yes.
so we thank her, but again, I recommend approval.
Motion to approve the donation of $165 by Artistic Media Associates for the grade 2 field trip.
Second?
All in favor?
And then I've received 2 additional donations, again, after the agenda went out. One, I think we got a while ago, but it kind of made its way to me late. One was from 308 Lakeside for $100 for our grade 6 barbecue.
Motion to approve the donation of $100 from 308 Lakeside for our grade 6 barbecue.
Second?
All in favor?
And then the PTO had their meeting and approved a whole bunch of new donations. $800 to the book room for leveled texts, K-2, author studies 3 and 4, and book club books for 5 and 6, so $800 total. $1,200 for blinds, the window blinds for classrooms, selected classrooms. $425 for the ice cream truck on field day that was split with the school. And $1,000 for school T-shirts for next year's pre-K and K, and for the staff. So that would be a total of
Wow.
$3,425.
Sorry, what was the total?
I have 3,425. Someone check my math.
I'm gonna say it's good. Motion to accept the $3,425 donation from the PTO for various items, including blinds, ice cream truck, T-shirts, and books.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye, thank you, PTO.
They also donate a portion of the cost of every bus for all of our field trips as well too.
Yeah.
So those
They
I don't know,
accepted that
They did it last
yeah.
month. You guys.
Yeah.
That's huge, though.
That
Yeah,
is amazing.
It's great.
Yeah.
It is
And
amazing.
then finally, Jim's Pizza donated $50 for our 6th grade barbecue that made it to me.
Motion to approve $50 donation from Jim's Pizza for the 6th grade barbecue.
Second?
All in favor? Did it
Just-
taste good, yours?
Just as an aside,
Jim's is sweet.
we had
Just the
talked
food, it
about
wasn't-
creating
Just the money.
thank you cards for people
okay.
who donated, and our art teacher
If I hold them up and
put forward this idea to some kids, and some kids decided to participate, and they came up with some
another one.
designs that we are making into thank you cards from the school committee for their kind donation. Once we get there, we'll put the kid's name on the front. But
Assuming
it's
the
just
parents
student
agree to that, of
artwork.
course.
Yeah, we'll check with parents to make sure they're good with that their student's name is on the front, but some of our student artwork to send them a nice thank you note from you for their kind donation.
I appreciate that the art teacher did that and took the time and had some kids work on it, and it's nice. It's nice to be able to send a thank you.
Yeah, kind of cool. They did a really nice job.
They did.
All right, lastly, we talked about this last month. This is the food services and
Oh, yeah.
the current balance. And so we did some math and we filled in some May numbers. And again, they did okay. They lost $114, but there's about $500 that could not be included because it was received after the May sort of paperwork was done. So it'll actually be on June's thing. They made $400 rather than lost $114, but it's gonna be in the June final bill.
I think I owe $4 on my lunch tab. That's,
Pay
I think that's part of it.
I don't think that's it.
I think
Well, I got a
that's
reminder
definitely
about it
tipping the
today,
scales.
Good.
I'll pay
That
that.
means you didn't get it from me yet.
We still have a lot of money.
So
owed.
I'm glad there's a little levity because it's not, I mean, this is a really challenging thing
Yeah.
to review with you. So the ending balance as of May, negative balance, is $14,729.85. We are working with our 2 food services managers who are going to do the closeout. So here's the time they need to close out the school year. Those are their hourly rates. So the number of hours and the hourly rate, so there's a cost there. Summer payroll is, you know, money that we owe our staff because they extended their pay over the course of the whole year, not just the school year. So we need to pay out $20,925.60. We've included $3,000 for startup, for supplies, food, and other materials that they'll need in late August. There's also getting the school year started, and so we've included time for our two cafeteria managers to get the school year running, which totals about $1,557.40. That may or may not come out, depending on the timing of and if we come to agreement with the union on the new stipend positions. But I need to include it now, because if we
Okay.
don't do that, it's gonna need to come out.
You gotta
at
account
some
for it
point.
somewhere.
So adding all those up is $41,035.03.
Okay.
It's not a good number, but right now it is what it is. I can't tell you anything more than I haven't told you already. I mean, I've kind of given you all the data on this this food services thing, and I think we're on the right track. Over the last few months, it's been much more positive.
It has been.
But we were in deep when we started in
Mhm.
July, and I think in February it sort of reached its crescendo, and we've changed directions. I think it's for the better, but that doesn't change the sort of situation that we're in. So my recommendation would be that we transfer $41,035.03 from school choice to the food services account to cover that, so that as a revolving program, it can't be in the red.
So we started negative $33,000 in part,
Yes.
right, because of all the ordering that's done to get ready for the year, I'm guessing, anyway, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so now we are ending negative 14.
So the 33,000 was at the end of last year and through July, and then in August, you can see the revenue of 26,455.
Yeah,
Well, the school committee, I believe, transferred 25,000.
okay,
So at the end of that month, the school committee the food services was $8,000 in debt. And then from there, it expanded. But what this doesn't include is the fact that $20,000 is payroll that's paid out during the summer. So if you sort of add this all up, they have to average about a $3,000 profit during the course of every month to break even at the end of the year, if you include that summer payroll and startup costs and those kinds of things.
and the summer payroll isn't because they're getting paid during the summer, it's because of,
No, they've worked the hours already, but they don't
Yeah.
get paid out until the summer.
because they want to be paid all
They
year.
get the 26
Yeah, okay.
weeks.
So we
Okay.
take the money and then we put it in the bank for them, but we're not putting enough money in the bank based on that. Now, I will tell you, thinking about this sort of moving forward is, the last couple of months have been much more positive. right?
Yeah, they have been.
If our food, don't forget, this food service, this included the food services director's salary for a good portion
Right.
of the year. So there's going to be savings in our approach moving forward.
Yep.
Technically, you could say $22,000 savings, but it really wasn't that this year because our last payment was really kind of March. So
This
the
is-
last 3 months, April, May, and June, we weren't paying a food services director's salary.
Was there also a payout for that? For the
There
foods?
was. That's why-
Right, is
that's why I went
incorporated
through
in here?
March.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, in March, they lost $1,011.50. They actually made $3,000.
But because of the
March.
payout,
But because of the $4,000 payout for vacation time,
yep.
it comes in as a negative. It had to be included because that's where it goes.
Yeah, that's the account.
But that's the ugly truth. I mean, there's no other way to say it.
God bless you.
Again, my feeling is that the last few months have been much more positive.
Yep.
The difference in potential salary versus stipend is 22,000, you know.
Yeah.
So I see a lot of positives, but it's still gonna be challenging for it to be a program that doesn't, you know, that's in the black.
Yeah.
I'm not sure it can be, but if we're gonna be in the red, let's be in the red by, you know, $500,
Less.
not $50,000 or
Let's
whatever.
let it be less.
Because this is just, to me, it's unacceptable
Yeah.
to be there, and, you know, I'm certainly part of that, and I own that. And, you know, hopefully we've made some changes for the better. I think we have.
Yeah.
Um,
Motion
but-
to approve the transfer from school choice to food services, the amount of $41,035.03.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. So last year, Sheila indicated to me that she did this letter, this type of letter, and
Okay.
had each member sign it.
Okay.
Because
Yep.
we are asking for significant transfer, and this goes to our
Okay.
town treasurer to make the transfer. Thank you.
So, we did a lot of recognitions at the beginning of the meeting, and I know everyone wants to go home, but if you'll give me a couple minutes here, I just wanted to say, well, today we had our box tops celebration, and Mr. Lind agreed early in the year to sing for the kids if we, if we collected enough box tops. We actually ended up collecting, 14,500 or so box tops, which is about 3,000 more than our goal, which is equivalent to about $350, which is probably equivalent to a computer, at least, or some books. So some other people joined. And I just wanted to say, we do these contests. You know, it's fun at the end of the year, I think, to do something like that. But it also creates interest, and we get box tops not just from parents, but we get box tops from community members. And so consequently,
My family.
right?
Kidding.
Your nephew,
My
anytime
nephew
he wants
wants to buy them.
collect them, give them to us. No, you can't do that. That's not right. Anyway, so it you know, that increases the number of box tops, and you know, the box tops money actually serves a pretty important purpose. So some people joined. Mr. Lind, Ruth, sang along. 3 of our teachers: Robin Pratt, Monique Dubuque, and Chrissy Kopecki. Rosemary McKenzie from the library, Chief Smith, and also Senator Goby came and played her clarinet.
That was awesome.
That was awesome.
She plays on Sunday nights in Barry.
No, I know. She plays
Common.
Courtney Cummings,
That
and
was
she
very
play in the
cool.
same band. I also just wanted to say that to our administrators that, you know, you do not have an easy job. It's a very demanding job, and we appreciate, I know I speak for myself, I think I speak for the rest of the school committee. We appreciate your dedication to our students. And then lastly, Mr. Lind, you're finishing up your school year with us.
I am.
And I think it's been a successful year, and we
Thank you, yeah.
appreciate you being here.
I appreciate the appreciation.
So-
It's been a great year. I really had a good time today, even though I'm a terrible singer. I hurt those poor kids' ears.
You were sitting next to me, and I didn't have any issues. So.
I definitely feel like there was some
Thank you,
quieter
Ruth.
voices.
Thank you. I appreciate
And
you
what was
saying
your
that.
nephew's name again, so I can?
Danny Carmichael. He's a
Carmichael,
sergeant in the
alright.
Stoughton Police Department, and when that came
Yeah.
out, he follows the Facebook page.
Very nice.
And saw that thing and sent out a family text saying, I would pay to see that, and if that means buying box tops off of eBay or somewhere else, I'll do it. Anybody else in it, of course. My entire family decided that they thought that would be great too.
We appreciate them.
So now
for
it's gonna
that.
be, now it's posted, I'm waiting for the text to
We'll have to come
start
up with
flying.
something, have to come up with something else for you for next year, so they'll wanna.
Be nice to me.
Yep. Tell Danny he can get in touch with us, and we'll come up with something.
I will let him
Turn,
know.
turn cartwheels.
No, I
Thanks
can't
for the
do that.
recognition, but more importantly, thanks for not making us sing. Really.
Well, you know, you just
Next
giving me
year.
ideas.
I
here, so-
know.
Always next
Thanking
year,
you.
Bill.
And you graciously
Camera's on.
accept the thanks.
For
and
2017-18.
say, No problem.
Yeah.
We'll do it again next year, same way, exact same way.
I like
No
to,
singing.
I like to come
Maybe
up with
next
something
year we'll
different
come up
every
with
year.
something
so-
else for you to do.
Yeah, I like to come up with something different.
So I shaved my head in
Eric,
August.
Eric dyed his hair last year.
Okay, so yeah,
maybe
so our
you
next
do
meeting is
something
August,
next year.
third Monday in
Eric,
August.
can you
Yep.
ride a unicycle and juggle flaming, like,
I-
bowling balls?
No,
or
I
something?
definitely can't.
Dunk
Bill,
tank?
how about you?
Anybody?
Yeah.
Oh, perfect, see,
Yeah, I'll
we
do
got,
that.
we got it.
Yeah.
What is
He's
it?
gonna ride a unicycle and
Alright.
juggle, like, flaming torches.
I got it.
That's better than singing.
You know how to do that already?
I'd rather do that than sing.
Alright, you got a year to,
You got a year to
to
practice.
learn.
Can't I just promise to shave my head and be done with it?
As long as you don't do a
No.
studio on that, I think we're fine.
I'm juggling.
You and Greg can
already.
both shave
I'll do
your
a
head.
studio on
Yeah,
juggling.
why not?
I know someone who rides a
Really?
unicycle, so I could.
See, now, you
Multi-talented.
shouldn't have said that.
I can juggle.
I feel like we
You
need
can
a
juggle.
motion to adjourn.
I can
You
juggle.
can
Also
too
the
as
world
well.
champion.
He can
jumper.
juggle, he can jump rope.
Okay, at the same time?
You're a
So-
teacher, you do anything to keep kids' attention.
That's true.
That means juggling, I'll juggle.
So our next meeting, I believe, is on August 20th.
Yep,
So
it is.
Excellent.
need a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Madam Chairwoman.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you guys so much.
Thank you.
The other four down there.